Chapter 1526. Feng Xinsha looked at the young man, madly licking his feet and giving off strange sounds of pleasure, and she gave a trace of a smile. She understood that she had tamed this young man, and she stepped on the young man's head as she said in an alluring voice, "What an interesting little male dog. Only by being obedient in the future will you receive such treatment. Understand?" The young man lay on the ground with a flattering look on his face as he stuck out his tongue and quickly nodded. The pain from just then had completely destroyed his dignity, and he just wanted to please Feng Xinsha so that he would not have to endure such pain. Feng Xinsha felt quite pleased and took out a thin dog leash made of silver and put it around the golden-haired young man's neck. She then led the golden-haired young man out, while the golden-haired young man crawled on the ground like a real dog. The Gold God world had already been completely conquered by the Second Aeolian Empire, and it did not carry out a massacre like before. Feng Xinsha needed a large number of people. This was because the devil race's 4 worlds did not have any people at all, and they were like 4 empty shells. As a kingdom, population was incredibly important, and only with enough people could the Second Aeolian Empire become powerful. The Second Aeolian Empire had 5 worlds in total, and adding on the Gold God world, it now had 6 worlds. The 3 factions now had the same number of worlds. The Second Aeolian Empire's sudden invasion shocked the other factions, including the Devil Horn Empire and the Qin Empire, and they both stopped to resist. Before, the Aeolian Empire had been quite obedient, but now that it had Feng Xinsha as its master, it had once again revealed its ferocious fangs. With her current strength, no one dared to look down on her. The Devil Horn Empire and the Qin Empire temporarily retreated and strengthened their defenses at the borders. The Aeolian Empire stood between the Devil Horn Empire and the Qin Empire, and there were many areas of contact between them. Now that the Second Aeolian Empire had revealed its fangs, the 2 sides had to be on guard. At the same time, Zhao Fu received news from the outer world that the Qin territory was being attacked by a large number of monsters, and he told the Qin Empire to quickly send reinforcements. It seemed that the situation was quite urgent and dangerous, or else they would not have sent reinforcements so quickly. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu hurriedly gathered his forces and received detailed information that a chaos evil city near the Great Qin territory was attacking. The mixed evil tribe had also been mentioned before. Although they only had a population of 10 million, they had created 6 billion insect monsters. Their strength was terrifying, and the land of Qin only had 2 billion soldiers stationed there. They were at a complete disadvantage, so it was no wonder that they were in such a hurry. However, the situation outside was not very good, and they needed a large number of soldiers to defend. After thinking for a while, Zhao Fu decided to bring 2 billion soldiers as reinforcements, as well as 6 million fallen light angels. They had once been part of the Feybright race, and they had received the fallen angel profession. Each of them was at the peak of the Type 3 realm, and they had darkness energy that could counter chaos life forms. Most importantly, Zhao Fu had heard that 6 million fallen light angels and 24 divine envoys could unleash a powerful ability. The world protector of the spirit light world, Cayman, and his wife, Athena, were the core of this operation. She was the only 6-winged angel and was about to break through to 8-winged. Even though she looked quite cold, her aura had become more mature and alluring. After all, she and the 24 divine envoys were often violated by Zhao Fu. After leading the army, Zhao Fu quickly arrived at the Great Qin territory. "What's the situation like?" After arriving, Zhao Fu flew up to the city walls and looked at Erisina as he asked. Erisina's expression was quite serious as she replied, "The Chaos Evil Tribe has sent out 5 billion or so insect monsters, and they're already 1,000 kilometers away." Zhao Fu asked curiously, "The Chaos Evil Tribe is quite far away from us. Why are they suddenly attacking the Great Qin territory?" Erisina thought about it before replying, "It's most likely because of the abnormal signs caused by you fusing with the 2 dens, which caused them to sense our existence." Zhao Fu understood. However, the Great Qin territory had 4 billion soldiers, tall city walls, and many other types of defenses. Facing this attack, Zhao Fu felt quite confident. All of the Qin soldiers started to make preparations. They pushed out terrifying ballistae and released barrels of dark kerosene. Countless wyverns circled in the sky, and tens of thousands of divine light emissaries were summoned. The entire Qin territory was prepared and gave off an incredibly powerful aura. Rumble, a massive explosion, sounded out as the ground continuously trembled. A chaotic and violent aura flooded out like a flood, causing the entire world to fall into terror. Countless figures flooded across the horizon, and they were so dense that it was impossible to count them. They completely covered the ground, and there were countless insect monsters flying in the sky, as if they wanted to cover the sky. These insect monsters were quite different from ordinary insect monsters. They had humanoid appearances and humanoid appearances. They were all incredibly ugly and could cause people to feel fear. For example, some had the bodies of ants and the heads of humans. Some had the upper bodies of humans and the lower bodies of scorpions. And some had the upper bodies of praying mantises and the lower bodies of humans. Some of the insect monsters flying in the sky had insect-like heads, human bodies, and a pair of thin wings on their backs. Some had a human body in appearance, but they had a cockroach-like carapace and wings on their backs. These insect monsters were like hybrids between humans and insects. No wonder Hong Mei and the other Chaos Spirit people were so afraid of the Chaos Evil race, because they felt that they were simply too evil. There were naturally many people controlling such massive insect monsters, and there were hundreds of thousands of them. The leader was a ferocious-looking, muscular man with pigtails. He was most likely the Chaos Evil City's city lord. He did not have any intention of saying anything. As creatures from the outer world, it was their nature to kill heaven-awakened world people. Boom! Countless insect monsters gave off heaven-toppling auras as they madly flooded towards the great Qin territory, seeming to be unstoppable and destroying everything. Just this aura could cause anyone to feel despair. Bang! Bang! As the insect tide rushed over, the trap that Great Qin had set up took effect. The ground split open, and a massive crack appeared. Countless insect monsters fell into the crack that was thousands of meters deep, and there were countless steel spikes that were hundreds of meters long in the crack. Countless insect monsters fell, and their bodies were pierced by the spikes. Green blood flew everywhere as howls sounded out. Chapter 1527. Chi, Chi, Chi. The sound of bodies being pierced could be heard as 100-meter-long spikes skewered the insect monster corpses. Green blood flowed along the spikes and dripped onto the ground, giving off a nauseating and pungent smell. The scene was quite terrifying. The first trap successfully stopped the insect horde's charge, but that was only for the insect monsters on ground. The insect monsters in the sky were unobstructed and gave off terrifying auras as they rushed over. Swish, 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 the sound of the air being torn could be heard, causing the sky to tremble. Countless arrows containing immense power shot out, piercing into the insect monsters' bodies, causing them to howl as they fell from the sky. Qin's arrows were specially made to deal with outer world creatures. Not only did they use darkness materials, but they also contained spirit destruction crystals. Facing the large number of insect monsters dying, the ferocious-looking big man looked quite furious and gave the order to counterattack. The first ones were the insect monsters in the sky. They opened their mouths and spat out streams of blue liquid that landed on the city walls, causing sizzling sounds to ring out. They were incredibly corrosive, and small holes appeared on the city walls from the corrosion. Arg! Pained cries sounded out as the liquid landed on the soldiers' bodies. Their equipment was quickly corroded, and the liquid entered their bodies and corroded their bodies. The immense pain was unbearable for the soldiers, and they howled. The insect monsters on the ground started to destroy the ground. Powerful attacks slammed into the ground, causing the ground to crack and collapse. They filled up the massive cracks and sent out vanguard insect monster teams to scout ahead. The second and third cracks that Qin had dug were also discovered and destroyed. The insect horde once again gave off an incredibly ferocious aura as they madly charged towards the Qin territory, seeming to want to destroy everything. They were incredibly fast. Seeing the countless casualties, Zhao Fu's expression became cold and somewhat furious. He ordered all of the wyverns, holy light emissaries, and the countless simplified dragon-slaying ballistae to madly attack. The 1,000 or so insect den wyverns shot out terrifying rays of light that flashed past and shot into the insect horde. Countless rays of light lit up, and massive explosions sounded out. A terrifying power spread out, blasting countless insect monsters' bodies into pieces and causing them to fall to the ground like rain. The 100-meter-tall holy light emissary stretched out its hands, causing massive white beams of light to shoot out with terrifying searing power. They quickly hit the insect monsters, and countless insect monsters seemed to have been burnt as they fell from the sky. Countless ordinary ice fire wyverns also spewed out large amounts of flames and icy blasts into the sky, killing the insect monsters in the sky. Swish, swish! Even more terrifying arrows containing ferocious power shot out, leaving behind black traces as they tore through the air. They tore through the sky and seemed to tear through the air, seeming as if they could tear through the sky. These bolts were all 3 meters long and were all silver-grade. They were socketed with darkness crystals, and even though they were a simplified version of the dragon-slaying ballistae, their power was still quite shocking. They were used to kill larger creatures. The larger insect monsters were hit by the arrows and continuously fell from the sky, once again creating a rain of corpses, making everyone feel quite shocked. The insect horde on the ground was also attacked, and thick vines shot out from the ground towards the insect monsters. They bound up the insect monsters and started to devour their flesh and blood. There was an even larger vine that was tens of meters thick. Countless insect monsters that charged over were torn apart by those massive vines, and their life force was instantly absorbed by the vines. Zhao Fu had planted a large number of man-eating vines outside the Great Qin territory to deal with these insect monsters. That massive vine was the man-eating vine demon, and when it attacked, there were no living creatures in the surrounding dozens of kilometers. It was incredibly ferocious. However, the insect monsters were not weak and continued to launch terrifying attacks. Some of the insect monsters in the sky started to spontaneously combust, and their bodies burst into flames as they smashed against the city walls like massive fireballs. These insect monsters had flammable liquids within their bodies, and when they landed on the city walls, they formed seas of flames and burned many soldiers to death. The insect monsters on the ground suddenly exploded with great might, blasting open large craters in the ground. Countless vines were blasted apart, causing juice and liquid to fly everywhere. The countless man-eating vines on the ground were heavily injured and were unable to stop the insect horde. The insect horde gave off ferocious power and continued to attack the Great Qin territory. By now, they had reached the bottom of the Great Qin territory city walls and quickly climbed up the city walls. Qin continuously dropped down flaming oil, creating ferocious black flames and burning countless insect monsters to death. The ferocious-looking big man continued to give the order to madly attack, sending out even larger and faster insect monsters. They turned into even larger fireballs that smashed towards the city walls, causing massive explosions. Massive explosions sounded out as countless insect beasts exploded, and the terrifying explosive power caused countless cracks to appear on the city walls. If this went on, the city walls would definitely be destroyed. At that moment, seeing how powerful the insect monsters were, Zhao Fu did not hold back, and all of the experts acted. Ericina slashed out a black sword light, and the terrifying sword light flashed out. The sharp power seemed to split the air in half, and the insect monsters in the sky were split in half and fell to the ground like rain. Long Hao Air and the other women turned into 10,000-meter-long dragons and breathed out powerful dragon flames. They could easily burn the surrounding 1,000 kilometers, and countless insect monsters died within them. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions sounded out as figures spread black wings of light and flew into the sky, exploding out with terrifying darkness auras. There were millions of them. These people were led by the 24 god emissaries, and they were spread out in a circle with a Thinkalai at the center. The 24 god emissaries had serious expressions as they started to chant, and their bodies gave off intense black light. A mysterious black magic formation was formed with the 24 of them as the foundation, and a Thinkalai was at the center of the magic formation. The other fallen light angels also started to chant, and their bodies gave off rays of black light. The rays of black light were attracted by the magic formation and flowed into it. The magic formation started to spin, and a massive wave of darkness energy spread out, causing a storm of darkness to spread out. Within this storm, a Thinkalai felt a massive wave of darkness energy flow into her body, causing her body to give off a black light. The 6 pairs of black wings behind her became many times larger, and a black halo appeared above her head. Chapter 1528. A Thinkalai stretched out a white hand toward the countless insect monsters in the sky and lightly cried out, "God Angel." A massive wave of darkness energy flowed out from a Thinkalai's hand as 10,000-meter wide black holes appeared in the sky with immense power. Fallen angels flooded out, giving off cold and dark auras as they charged towards the countless insect monsters. There were tens of millions of fallen angels, and all of them had stage 3 cultivation. They held darkness swords and slashed out dark sword lights. Each sword light was incredibly powerful and easily killed 10 or so insect monsters. Countless insect monsters died in large numbers, and Great Sheen unleashed all sorts of attacks. Great Sheen's side successfully suppressed the countless attacking insect monsters in the sky. The countless soldiers on the ground attacked, killing the insect monsters climbing up the city walls. Without the threat from the sky, they were quite effective. Zhao Fu flew down from the city walls and vigorously waved his hand, sending out a massive wave of power that sent all of the insect monsters in the surrounding 10,000 meters flying. Zhao Fu half squatted on the ground and pressed a hand against the ground. The golden pupil in his left eye spun as a wave of power seeped into the ground. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as a heaven-toppling aura flooded out from the ground, causing the ground to crack. A massive head rose up from the ground, followed by a body and feet. This person was 100,000 meters tall and had long black hair. He had a pair of pure black eyes and a muscular body. His skin was dark, and his hands were like sharp claws. He looked like a demon god and gave off a terrifying aura that swept out like wild gales. This was the second time that Zhao Fu had summoned the primogenitor statue. The first time, he had destroyed the spirit light world before putting it into the blood lake to continue evolving. Qin continuously attacked other worlds and continuously obtained more people. Their bloodlines could be fused into the primogenitor statue, causing it to continuously evolve. Now, the primogenitor statue's power was no weaker than that of an Emperor Heaven Realm expert. Most importantly, with its advantage in size, its attack range was dozens of times that of an ordinary Emperor Heaven Realm expert. Zhao Fu stood on the primogenitor statue's head and grabbed at the air, causing a blood-red sword to appear. A terrifying wave of power entered the sword, causing it to give off an extremely terrifying aura, causing the space around it to gradually tear apart. Shing! A shocking sword hum sounded out as the primogenitor statue vigorously slashed out, and a massive blood-red sword light slashed out, causing the air to explode and turning into wild gales. The blood-red light flashed out, and everything in the tens of thousands of kilometers in front of it was split apart. Not only were countless insect monsters cut into pieces and green blood dyed the ground, but countless plants, hills, and rivers were also wiped out by this sword strike, leaving behind only a flat ground with countless rocks and wood fragments. The surroundings fell into deathly silence. A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. Just then, he had insta-killed over 10 million insect monsters, which was incredibly ferocious. Of course, he had used up a lot of energy. The primogenitor statue was now Great Qin's primogenitor statue, and it had fused with the blood of 400 billion people. It would be a lie if it was not terrifying. The primogenitor statue was now Qin's primogenitor statue, and it had fused with the blood of 400 billion people. It would be a lie if it did not have terrifying power. By now, he had lost more than half of his insect monster army, and there were only 2 billion insect monsters left. Seeing that they could not take down the Great Qin territory, the ferocious-looking big man was not stupid, and he gave the order to retreat. After recovering their strength, they would destroy the Great Qin territory. The insect monster army he had brought had lost more than half, and there were only 2 billion insect monsters left. Seeing that they could not take down the Qin territory, the ferocious-looking man was not stupid, and he gave the order to retreat. After recovering their strength, they would come back to destroy the Qin territory. However, Zhao Fu would not let off the ferocious-looking man so easily. The Qin territory was not a place where he could come and go as he pleased. Zhao Fu controlled the primogenitor statue to raise a hand, and a 1,000-meter wide blood-red jade appeared above the primogenitor statue's palm. This was one of Japan's 3 divine armaments, the Yasukani no Magatama, and a massive wave of power flowed into it. The Yasukani no Magatama gave off a blood-red light and started to spin faster and faster. It was like a spinning blood-red disc, bringing with it an enormous blood-red whirlwind that gave off a massive attractive force. Some of the rocks and trees on the ground were sucked into the sky. The clouds in the sky madly swirled, and they were also attracted by this enormous whirlwind. Powerful destructive auras spread out, causing the heavens and earth to become icy cold, and everyone could not help but feel terror. The Yasukani no Magatama continuously spun, forming a blood-red whirlwind that was tens of thousands of meters wide. It gave off a power that seemed to be able to destroy everything, and it caused the heavens and earth to dim. Boom! Zhao Fu controlled the primogenitor statue and vigorously threw out the blood-red whirlwind, causing the space around it to tremble. The massive blood-red whirlwind gave off world-destroying power as it shot out incredibly quickly, seeming unstoppable. Everything in its path, whether it was mountains, trees, or insect monsters, was completely destroyed, looking incredibly terrifying. The blood-red whirlwind's attack range was incredibly great, and it flew through the insect monsters to the center of the insect horde, where the Chaos Evil people were. There were hundreds of thousands of kilometers between them and the Chaos Evil people. The Chaos Evil people had never thought that the primogenitor statue would be able to attack from so far away, and they were completely caught off guard. Their bodies were turned into mincemeat, and some of the insect monsters lost control and started to fall into chaos. The ferocious-looking big man was greatly startled. Now, he understood what sort of terrifying faction he had attacked, and he started to feel regret. Zhao Fu controlled the primogenitor statue to raise its sword and gave off a heaven-shaking roar. All Qin soldiers, heed our orders. Kill. Bang. 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 Zhao Fu controlled the primogenitor statue to charge out, giving off a terrifying aura as it stepped on the ground, causing the ground to crack and massive footprints to appear. Kill. Countless Qin soldiers gathered together, forming a black tide that roared as they gave off a heaven-shaking aura of killing and conquering as they charged at the escaping insect monsters. Boom, boom, boom. Qin's countless experts exploded out with powerful auras and obeyed Zhao Fu's orders as they turned into rays of light and chased after the Chaos Evil people. Zhao Fu controlled the insect monsters and swung the sword in his hand, sending out sword lights that killed countless insect monsters. The ferocious-looking big man's expression became somewhat terrified, and he ordered all of the insect monsters to stop Zhao Fu. Facing the flood of insect monsters, Zhao Fu did not feel any fear at all. As he quickly attacked, Great Qin soldiers also rushed up. Zhao Fu charged out of the insect horde and charged towards the Chaos Evil people, and he ordered the other experts to first kill the Chaos Evil people controlling the insect monsters. In the end, Zhao Fu caught up to the ferocious-looking big man. The ferocious-looking big man knew that he could not escape, so he roared and exploded out with power as he charged at Zhao Fu. However, he was casually killed by Zhao Fu with a single sword strike, ending this battle. Chapter 1529. After killing this group of Chaos Evil people, the remaining insect monsters fled in chaos and did not deal much damage to Qin. Zhao Fu left a portion of his soldiers to defend the Qin territory and took a large force to attack Chaos Evil City. Chaos Evil City had 6 billion insect monsters, and no one dared to offend it. Now that 5 billion or so insect monsters have been destroyed by Qin, there were only a few 100 million insect monsters left, and they could not resist at all. This was the best time to take down Chaos Evil City. As for the 10 million Chaos Evil people, they could be completely ignored by Qin's army. Boom! Qin's army was like a black flood that gave off a heaven-shaking aura as if it wanted to destroy everything. They quickly arrived at Chaos Evil City, and because Qin was quite fast and had killed all of the Chaos Evil people, they did not know that Chaos Evil City had been defeated. Chaos Evil City was a massive city with massive walls that were over 100 meters tall. There were large holes around them, and they were covered with green mucus that gave off a disgusting smell. This was most likely where the Chaos Evil people nurtured insect monsters and where they lived. There were countless holes densely packed together, and it looked quite horrifying. At this moment, the Chaos Evil people had fallen into chaos and fear, and they had nowhere to run. Chaos Evil City was completely surrounded by Qin's army, and not even a fly could escape today. Zhao Fu looked at the large holes and ordered people to pour oil into the holes in case there were any threats. He lit up the holes, and the massive flames continued to burn as countless insect monsters crawled out of the holes. They were the remaining hundreds of millions of insect monsters. The hundreds of millions of insect monsters were controlled by the Chaos Evil people, and they madly rushed towards Great Qin. Some charged into the walls of flames that had just been set ablaze, while others charged towards places that had not been set ablaze. Even though their auras were quite shocking, Qin's side had already formed a defensive formation and was waiting for their final wave of attacks. Swish, swish, swish. Arrows containing immense force arced through the air and tore through the air as they descended like a torrential rain. The incoming insect monsters were pierced by countless arrows, and green blood splattered everywhere as they died on the spot. But countless insect monsters continued to rush toward Qin. At that moment, the countless wyverns spat out countless flames and icy currents. The holy light emissaries shot out beams of holy light, while the insect den wyverns shot out beams of light. The various experts unleashed their attacks, ferociously blasting towards the insect monsters. The group of insect monsters basically had no power to resist at all. After a series of explosions, they turned into groups of dismembered corpses. Green blood dyed the ground green. After killing the last wave of insect monsters and destroying countless wormholes, Qin's army arrived at the city. Right now, there are only about 10 million chaos fiends left in the city. Now, they all held weapons in their hands, and their expressions were unsightly. Some of their bodies were even trembling slightly. They wanted to protect Chaos Evil City and fight a final battle against Qin. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man with grizzled hair. He looked similar to the ferocious man from before. This middle-aged man should be the ferocious man's father. His aura was stronger than the fierce-looking youth's, and he was already at the divine realm. This was the outer regions of the Chaos Evil world, and having such a cultivation was already quite shocking. The highest cultivation in the outer regions of the Heaven-Awakened world was only at the world realm. Zhao Fu stood in the air and gave a trace of a confident smile as he said, "You no longer have any power to resist. Only by submitting to me can you live. Don't seek death." The white-haired middle-aged man coldly harumphed. The Chaos Evil race definitely won't submit to a lowly heaven-awakened world person. If you want to fight, then fight. Sooner or later, our outer world will destroy your heaven-awakened world. A trace of coldness appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he said to Long Hao Er and the other experts beside him, "Kill everyone on the city walls. Don't leave a single one alive." There were only 3 or 4 million people on the city walls, which was all of the Chaos Evil Race's people could fight. However, this small number of people was not enough for the experts that Zhao Fu had brought. Boom, boom, boom. Rays of light shot out, giving off ferocious auras as they shot towards the city walls. The battle quickly ended, and the white-haired elder was surrounded by 2 extreme divine realm dragons. In less than 10 moves, he was killed. Long Hao Er happily held his head and went up to claim credit, saying, "Master, I killed him first. I was the one who killed him first, so you have to reward me later." Bai Han Er felt quite displeased. She had also attacked just then, but Long Hao Er had beaten her to it. She felt quite wronged as she said, "Master, I also contributed greatly. Don't forget about me." Zhao Fu lightly smiled and nodded. Now that the Chaos Evil Race's last bit of resistance had been killed, Qin's army flooded forwards. There were countless Chaos Evil people, most of whom were elderly, children, and women. They either ran in terror or hid in their houses, trembling. They fell into despair and prayed for a miracle to happen. However, there were no miracles. Those who only wanted to run and did not submit were killed by arrows, and those who hid in their houses were dragged out. If they dared to resist, they were killed. Countless cries sounded out within the city, and blood dyed the city red. Zhao Fu brought his people to the city hall and sat on the city lord's seat, waiting for the results of clearing out Chaos Evil City. Soon, Xiao Jian came up, giving off a baleful aura, and reported, "Your Majesty, only 2 million or so people were willing to submit." In the end, only 2 million or so people were willing to submit. The rest have already been killed. We have obtained countless resources and precious treasures, and there are about 400 insect nest stones. Hearing this, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. Just those 400 or so insect dens were worth it for Zhao Fu to come and attack Chaos Evil City. With those 400 or so insect dens, Qin's army would have another 400 or so insect den dragons. Out of the 10 million people in the city, only 2 million were willing to surrender in the end. This was because they were humanoid creatures, and it was almost impossible for other insect-type creatures to submit. Unless Zhao Fu had the outer world bloodline, perhaps he would be able to subdue and control those insect beasts. As for how the outer world bloodline controlled the insect beasts, Zhao Fu understood. This was because outer world bloodline innately gave birth to a type of spiritual mark, and as long as one imprinted the spiritual mark on the leader of the insect beasts, they would be able to control a large group of insect beasts. Moreover, if one had the aura of an outer world bloodline, the insect beasts would obey one's orders. Otherwise, just like how Zhao Fu had subdued Xueji, the other blood-sucking mosquitoes would turn and run, and they would not submit to Zhao Fu. The Chaos Evil Race bloodline was not so easy to obtain, and after fusing with the Heaven Awakened World bloodline, the two bloodlines would clash. Chapter 1530. Unless it was like the blood demon snake mosquitoes, only by fusing 2 dens would they be able to create insects that obeyed Qin. Fusing dens would require great power, and ordinary nests would not be able to fuse. Xiao Jian gave a trace of smile as he said, "Your Majesty, this subordinate has brought Chaos Evil City's city lord's relatives. I have already brought the relatives of Chaos Evil City Lord here. They might know some secrets. Your Majesty, do you want to meet them?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said, "Bring them here." Following this, 6 women were brought over. 2 of them were the most mature. One had a voluptuous figure and gave off a simple aura, while the other had a mature figure and gave off a virtuous aura. They were the wives of the white-haired middle-aged man and the mothers of the ferocious-looking big man. They were called Yu Hong and Yu Mei. Of the other 3 women, one had a bewitching figure and gave off a flirtatious aura, One had a sexy figure and gave off an alluring aura, and one had a well-built figure and gave off a trace of wildness. They were the wives of the ferocious-looking big man, and they were called Yushan, Yutiantian, and Yulong. The last one was a pretty and vivacious young girl called Yuling, and she was the ferocious-looking big man's daughter. They looked at Zhao Fu with hatred and fear because Zhao Fu had killed their husbands and destroyed Chaos Evil City. They were worried about their future, and it was evident that this heaven-awakened world person was not a good person. Zhao Fu looked at the women with interest and got up from his seat with a trace of a smile on his face as he went up and hugged a few beautiful women. The women immediately struggled and cursed at Zhao Fu for being a bastard and an animal. But Zhao Fu calmly smiled and said, "If you resist, I'll kill everyone related to them." Following this, they did not dare to resist and cried pitifully. However, Zhao Fu still tasted them and did it with them. After going at it intensely, Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged the two women and said, "Tell me everything you know about Chaos Evil City." Yushan, one of the wives of the fierce man, glared at Zhao Fu and said, "You just tortured us like that, and now you're not even going to let us rest? We don't have anything else to say now. Our bodies have been defiled by you. If you want to kill us, then kill us. I want to see my husband and son," Yu Hong said with tears in her eyes when she thought of her husband and son who had been killed by Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smiled as he gently hugged her and said, "Now that you are all my women, how could I bear to kill you? Don't worry, I will take good care of you." One of the ferocious-looking big man's wives, Yu Tiantian, looked at Zhao Fu flirtatiously and lightly nodded as she said, "I believe you. You were so powerful just then. My husband is already very powerful, and I never thought that you would be dozens of times stronger than him. I feel like I've been conquered by you." These words caused the other women to look quite angry because Yu Tiantian was evidently going to submit to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu started to ask Yu Tiantian about Chaos Evil City, and the other women wanted to stop her. However, now that Chaos Evil City had been destroyed, there was no point in protecting these secrets. They could only let Yu Tiantian be. By now, Zhao Fu found out how Chaos Evil City nurtured insect monsters. He found it quite disgusting, which was to use a secret technique to send a man's essence into a mother insect monster's body, causing the mother insect monsters to give birth to half-human, half-insect monsters. This was just a simplified version. In actuality, the secret technique was for a man and a mother insect monster to fuse together. However, with 6 billion or so insect monsters, it was impossible for all of them to be created like that. There were also insect monsters that fused with other insect monsters. What made Zhao Fu even more surprised was that Chaos Evil City would hold a special event for men to do it with insect beasts. The more insect beasts they conquered, the more rewards they would receive, and these insect beasts would give birth to another generation of insect monsters. As the city lord of Chaos Evil City, he naturally did not participate in this, and Zhao Fu felt that Chaos Evil City was quite perverted and evil. Yu Tiantian and the other women also knew about this secret technique, but Zhao Fu was not interested in it at all. What made Zhao Fu even more interested was that Chaos Evil City had a historical remnant, which was why it was so powerful, and it had obtained its secret technique from it. That historical remnant only opened once a month, and only 3 people could enter. Tomorrow it would open. That historical remnant was incredibly dangerous. Chaos Evil City's old city lord, the white-haired middle-aged man, had divine realm cultivation, but he was only able to explore the 3rd level before being injured and forced to retreat. Seeing how dangerous it was, Zhao Fu became even more interested. Perhaps he would be able to make great gains, so he decided to go to the historical remnant to have a look. Yu Tiantian lay in Zhao Fu's embrace and said coquettishly, "You bad person, I've told you everything. In the future, you have to treat us well and don't bully us as you please." Zhao Fu smiled and hugged her as he nodded earnestly. Yu Tiantian could sense Zhao Fu's intentions, and her face became red as she said emotionally, "Bad person, I want more." Following this, Zhao Fu started to ravage the women. Because it had been the first time, the women did not resist and were immersed in it, and their lewd moans spread far and wide. The next day, Zhao Fu called over Di Moji and Yuan Ziyuan. They were the two most powerful Emperor Heaven Realm experts in Qin City, and because they could not use their nation armaments in the outer world, Zhao Fu's cultivation was only at the Heaven Realm, so he could not enter the historical remnant by himself. As such, he called over the two of them. Yu Tian brought Zhao Fu to a secret passageway. This passageway was 10 meters tall and 4 meters wide, and there were carvings on the walls of the passageway. They were all carvings of people and insects, and there were not only male and female insects, but there were also male and female insects, looking incredibly evil. In the end, they reached a large cave in the depths of the passageway. The cave was hundreds of meters tall and hundreds of meters wide, and there was nothing inside apart from a violet vortex at the center of the cave. This was most likely the entrance to the historical remnant, and after checking that there were no problems, Zhao Fu brought Di Moji and Yuan Ziyuan in. After entering the historical remnant, Zhao Fu and Yuan Ziyuan were shocked by what they saw. There were 6 levels here, and there were 6 massive continents floating on top of each other. This was the first time Zhao Fu had explored historical remnant in the outer world, and he was not familiar with it yet, so he felt even more interested. The first and second levels had already been explored by Chaos Evil City's people, so there was most likely no value to them. As such, Zhao Fu brought the 2 women to the 3rd level. Chapter 1531. For example, one of them had the head and body of a worm, but it had densely packed human eyes. Another one had the head of a beetle and the body of a human, but the body seemed to have been skinned, revealing bloody muscles. There were also frogs with human women's breasts, and there were 20 or so pairs, all of which were quite voluptuous. There were also frogs with insect heads and 4 or 5 insect bodies, but they had 4 or 5 manly things. Moreover, none of them were weak, and there were many of them. It was impossible for Divine Realm experts to pass through, so no wonder Chaos Evil City's Old City Lord had retreated. Because they could not use their nation armaments here, Zhao Fu could not do much with his cultivation, nor could he summon the primogenitor statue. As such, killing these insect monsters was left to Di Moji and Yuanya. For them to be ranked as the top 10 beauties in the demon domain, not only were they as beautiful as fairies, but they were also terrifyingly powerful. The 2 of them held their swords and slashed out countless sword lights. The incoming insect monsters were unable to resist at all and were chopped into countless pieces by the sword lights. Zhao Fu stood there and watched. He could not help at all. It was a pity that Zhao Fu could not summon the evil flower beasts anymore, as they had fused with the Demon Lord Star. Otherwise, the 12 10,000-meter long evil flower demons would be able to devour heaven and earth power and devour countless insect monsters. After a while, Di Moji gave a trace of a smile and said, "Husband, we've killed all of the insect monsters. After killing all of the insect monsters, we can head to the depths of the 3rd level." Yuan Ziyuan pouted as she said, "My good husband, you came here to enjoy life, and we have to do everything for you. If you don't take care of us later, we won't forgive you." Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged one of them with each arm and said, "I understand. Let's continue onwards." After reaching the depths of the 3rd level, an insect monster that was tens of thousands of meters long appeared in front of Zhao Fu and the others. This insect monster had the head of a woman and the body of a spider. The woman was quite beautiful, but Zhao Fu was not interested in her, so he ordered them to kill her. Di Moji and Yuan Ziyuan turned into 2 powerful rays of light and shot towards the spider insect monster. The spider insect monster roared and exploded out with a ferocious aura as it opened its mouth and shot out countless rays of black light. Those streaks of black light were extremely powerful and could easily pierce through boulders. They could also create large holes in the ground, and they could cover a large area. Zhao Fu didn't dare to stay too close in case he was caught up in the battle. He moved further away to observe the battle. Even though the insect monster was incredibly powerful, the 2 women were even more powerful. They unleashed their domains, blocking the countless rays of black light. and 2 rays of sword light containing ferocious power slashed out. The insect monster's back was hit, and 2 massive wounds appeared. Green blood spurted out, and the insect monster howled in pain. Its eyes became blood red, and its aura became even more powerful. Its tail suddenly spewed out a large amount of black fog, which instantly spread out and covered the 2 women. The black fog easily passed through the defensive barrier. The 2 women's breathing became ragged, and their faces became bright red. The black fog had an incredibly powerful ability to arouse their desires, causing their bodies to feel quite powerless. The massive insect monster grasped this opportunity and opened its mouth as it bit towards the 2 women. Zhao Fu felt quite startled and stretched out his hand, causing 2 chains to shoot out and bind their bodies. He then vigorously pulled and dragged them out of the encirclement. The insect monster turned its head and furiously looked at Zhao Fu. It looked quite startled before becoming delighted, and it gave off a massive aura as it rushed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu brought the 2 women and prepared to retreat to the second level. He was not a match for this enormous insect monster, and the 2 women had been careless. They thought that the insect monster was unable to retaliate, so they had breathed in a lot of the black fog and had gone berserk. Zhao Fu had used chains to bind them, but because they were much stronger than Zhao Fu, they easily broke free and pressed Zhao Fu against the ground, tearing at Zhao Fu's clothes. This made Zhao Fu feel quite startled. Now was not the time to do such a thing. The enormous insect monster was rushing over, and doing such a thing now would be seeking death. However, the key thing was that he could not use his nation armament, and Zhao Fu was not a match for them at all. He was pressed against the ground and could not move at all. A massive figure covered the 3 of them. It was the enormous insect monster, and its eyes looked at Zhao Fu in delight as it buzzed. Holy Sun Essence. The insect monster's body continuously shrank until it turned into a naked woman. She had a bewitching figure, long black hair, and a beautiful face. However, she had 4 arms, and there was something on her back that looked like a spider's abdomen. The woman came to Zhao Fu's side and stroked Zhao Fu's beautiful face. A wave of black fog flowed into Zhao Fu's body, and she said in a flirtatious voice, "Lord Holy Sun, you're quite beautiful. Enjoy yourself from now on." Then, the woman pushed away the 2 women who were assaulting Zhao Fu and pressed Zhao Fu to the ground with her 4 arms. Then, she began to assault Zhao Fu viciously. Because of the black fog, Zhao Fu's 6 desires demonic qi went out of control, and he went berserk. He quickly pressed down on the woman and started to ravage her. After Zhao Fu came to his senses, he pushed away the paralyzed woman with a look of disgust. He felt quite angry. No woman had ever dared to treat him like this, and he raised his hand, wanting to kill her. The woman looked quite pitiful and pleaded, "Lord Holy Sun, I will serve you well. Didn't you feel happy when you violated me just now? As long as Lord Holy Sun accepts me, pampers me every day, and gives me your Holy Sun essence, I will now bring you to the deepest part of the ruins." Dimoji and Yuan Ziyuan came back to their senses, and their faces became slightly red. Seeing that Zhao Fu wanted to kill that woman and that the woman was begging him, they felt a trace of pity. If she had been acting like an enemy, they would have definitely killed her. Hearing that they could directly head into the depths of the historical remnant, Dimoji felt quite tempted, and she said, "Husband, there's no need to worry. You can think about it." The woman hurriedly said, "Lord Holy Sun, hidden in the depths of these ruins is a terrifying thing that can shake chaos worlds. Countless chaos worlds had once joined forces to destroy it. It's definitely an unimaginably terrifying thing." Zhao Fu felt quite tempted and felt quite curious about what it was. The outer world sovereigns were like the heaven-awakened world's higher beings, so what could it be for so many higher beings to want to destroy it? Looking at the woman he had just assaulted, Zhao Fu could not bear to kill her, and he coldly harumphed, "Don't lie to me, or else you'll suffer a terrible fate." Now, Zhao Fu had set up countless restrictions within the woman's body, and he could control everything about her. Chapter 1532. Zhao Fu looked at her and asked, "What's your name?" The woman shook her head and said happily, "How about Lord Holy Sun? Give me a name." Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to name her Zhu Ji. Zhu Ji gave a pleased smile and hugged Zhao Fu's arm before leading Zhao Fu and the others to the 4th level. There were countless insect monsters on the 4th level, and their auras were even more powerful than those on the 3rd level. They flooded forwards, seeming to want to destroy everything. They made Dimoji and Yuan Ziyuan feel a trace of pressure, and their expressions became serious. However, Zhu Ji charmingly smiled as she went up and opened her mouth, and a formless sound wave spread out, causing the insect monsters to retreat. It seemed that Zhu Ji was quite capable. Suddenly, a figure giving off a powerful aura flew in front of everyone. It was a woman with a seductive figure and long, yellow hair. She was quite beautiful and had a pair of wasp wings on her back. She also had a pair of eyes that looked like a wasp's. She was not wearing any clothes. Zhu Ji gave a trace of a smile and said temptingly, "Wasp, this is Lord Holy Sun. This is the Lord Saint Sun. Do you want the Saint Sun's essence? Hurry up and serve the Holy Sun." The woman looked delighted, and her beautiful eyes fell on Zhao Fu's body. She discovered that Zhao Fu gave off a Holy Sun aura, and she excitedly flew over to Zhao Fu and half-squatted as she said flirtatiously, "Respected Lord Holy Sun, I'm here to serve you." Zhao Fu knew that it would be like this, so he did not say anything. He wanted to do it with her and taste her sweetness. In the end, he changed her name to Wasp Ji. There was another woman on the 5th level. She had a bewitching figure and pinkish-white skin. She had long black and white hair and was quite beautiful. She had a pair of butterfly wings on her back and 2 feelers on her forehead. She also gave off a powerful aura. By now, she was panting under Zhao Fu's body before collapsing to the ground. The group continued forward and finally arrived at the 6th floor. The process was quite smooth, but the method left Zhao Fu speechless. In the end, the insect monster that guarded the 6th level was a centipede with 3 human heads. One of the heads was an old man, one of the heads was a woman, and one of the heads was a child. Zhao Fu didn't want to hold back and directly ordered for the centipede to be killed. Zhao Fu was eager to know what that item was and whether it was worth paying such a huge price for. The 3-headed centipede spat out a poisonous mist that contained terrifying corrosive properties. The ground sizzled and became charred black, releasing a pungent smell. However, Dimoji and Yuan Ziyuan had learned their lesson from last time, so they didn't dare to be careless again. Sword lights rained down on the centipede, slicing open its shell and causing green blood to flow out. Zhu Ji, Feng Ji, and Dai Ji also unleashed powerful attacks towards the 3-headed centipede, dealing significant damage to it. This made the 3-headed centipede incredibly furious, and its 3 heads gave off different sounds as they cursed at the 3 women. It was evident that they knew each other, and it said that they had betrayed their master by submitting to someone from the heaven-awakened world and attacking it. The 3 women ignored the 3-headed centipede, as it was definitely going to die. After all, the key to the treasury was its 3 heads. The 3-headed centipede had been their master's most capable subordinate, and it would never betray its master, much less serve someone from the heaven-awakened world. To them, their master had died many years ago, so they naturally wanted to find a new master. As a holy son, Zhao Fu was undoubtedly the most suitable candidate, as something from Zhao Fu was incredibly important to them. Xing! A sword hum sounded out as a black ray of light shot into the sky, and a massive sword chi storm spread out. Dimoji gripped her sword as she gave off a powerful aura, causing the air to feel heavier. A massive black crescent gave off ferocious power as it slashed against the centipede's body. The centipede howled in pain as its body was sliced in half. A large amount of blood spurted out. The ground was dyed red. However, the 3-headed centipede's life force was incredibly great, and it gathered the last of its strength to attack the 3 women, wanting to kill these 3 traitors who had betrayed its master. By the side, Yuan's Yuan slashed out a sword light, and a massive sword energy slammed into the three-headed centipede, sending it flying and smashing open a large crater. The ground violently trembled and rocks flew everywhere, and the centipede twitched a few times before falling silent. The three women cut off the three heads and came before Zhao Fu and smiled as they said, "Lord Holy Sun, with these three heads, you can open the treasury. With these three heads, we can open the door to the treasury. Do we need to open the door to the treasury now?" Zhao Fu nodded. Following this, they came before an extravagant door. There were two stone pillars next to the door, and the door seemed to be gilded and gave off a golden light. There was a beautiful landscape engraved on the door. At the center of the door were three large holes. In actuality, they did not need to kill the three-headed centipede. All they needed to do was place their heads into the holes to open the door. However, it was evident that the three-headed centipede would not submit to Zhao Fu. The three women placed their heads into the holes, which gave off a blood-red light. A massive aura spread out from the extravagant door, and the door started to slowly open as a terrifying aura flowed out. That aura seemed to cause space and time to freeze, and countless people felt as if they had fallen into an icy cavern. They could not help but feel terror, and their bodies started to tremble. Everyone's faces became quite pale. That terrifying aura seemed to surpass the level of higher beings, and was like a celestial. No one dared to resist at all. What was most noticeable was that aura contained a bloodline's might. This bloodline's might was even slightly stronger than Zhao Fu's divine bloodline. Dimoji and Yuan's Yuan's sovereign bloodlines were unable to withstand it, and it was as if there was a will forcing them to kneel. If it wasn't for the fact that they were resisting with all of their strength, they would have already knelt to the ground. Zhao Fu and the others looked at each other with serious expressions before walking towards the door. After passing through the door, they saw a luxurious white hall. Within the hall, there was a coffin made of platinum, and there was a fist-sized octagonal jade stone floating above the coffin. It was 8 different colors and gave off a faint light. As for the aura, just then, it had come from the coffin. Zhu Ji suddenly lightly laughed as she said, "Lord Holy Sun, don't worry. That was just the aura left behind by Master when he was alive. There's nothing inside the coffin other than a few pieces of clothing." Chapter 1533. Lord Holy Sun. This is the terrifying item that I was talking about, and it was the crystallization of my Master's life. It already has its own consciousness and needs you to go up and obtain its acknowledgement, Zhu Ji explained as she smiled. Because Zhao Fu had sensed that terrifying aura, he naturally did not dare to be careless and asked seriously, "Just who was your master?" Zhu Ji said with a trace of pride, "Our master was the most dazzling genius in the outer world and created an ultimate forbidden skill. Despite having the lowest grade and bloodline, he reigned above countless emperors and became one of the most terrifying people in this world." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt even more confused and asked, "What's that ultimate forbidden skill? Since your master was so powerful, how did he die?" Zhu Ji smiled as she stretched out a hand and pointed at the 8-shaped jade. "That's the ultimate forbidden skill. As for how our master died, we don't know either. However, we're too weak and only act as guards, so we don't know what happened." Zhao Fu nodded and stretched out his hand to touch the jade. Suddenly, the jade gave off an intense 8-colored light, and a powerful aura exploded out. Zhu Ji, Feng Ji, and Dai Ji looked delighted and said excitedly, "Lord Holy Sun, you were acknowledged by us. As expected, you were able to gain recognition. This also proves that we were right to serve you." As soon as they finished speaking, Zhao Fu gave a trace of smile. Boom! The 8-shaped jade gave off an even more terrifying aura, and a wild gale blew out, making it so that everyone else was unable to resist and was forced back. Only Zhao Fu was not affected at all. The 8-shaped jade gave off intense 8-colored light, and because the light was so intense, it looked like an 8-colored orb of light. It dyed the surroundings with 8 colors and gave off a powerful aura as it slowly floated toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu felt a bit hesitant and did not know if he should accept this jade. Moreover, this jade was a forbidden item in the outer world, and, as someone from the Heaven Awakened world, could he accept this jade? Zhao Fu did not know any of this, but Zhao Fu knew that this jade could make him stronger. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, power was the most important thing, so Zhao Fu had no reason to refuse. Zhao Fu spread out his hands, and the 8-colored orb of light gave off intense light and a terrifying aura as it slowly fused into Zhao Fu's chest. Immediately, Zhao Fu felt an unimaginable power enter his chest, causing his body and soul to tremble, and a trace of blood flowed out of Zhao Fu's mouth and eyes. The 8-colored orb of light did not fuse quickly and instead slowly fused. The 8-colored orb of light only fused slightly into Zhao Fu's body, because Zhao Fu's body was rejecting this power. After all, Zhao Fu was someone from the Heaven Awakened world. Facing this situation, Zhao Fu could only suppress his bloodline and wholeheartedly accept the 8-colored orb of light. As the 8-colored orb of light slowly fused into Zhao Fu's body, an intense gale blew out. Everyone else could only retreat into the distance, and this was even the case for Moji and the other woman because they felt a bloodline suppression. At that moment, Zhao Fu's bloodline started to go through unknown changes because of the 8-colored orb of light. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the 8-colored orb of light finally fused into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu exploded out with a terrifying aura that rippled out like a shockwave, causing countless cracks to appear in the ground. An 8-colored aura flame burst forth from Zhao Fu's body, and an 8-colored pillar of light ferociously shot into the sky, causing the sky to tremble. The dark blue sky outside was now completely cloudless, and the 8 blazing suns gave off boundless light, scorching the ground. The weather was clear and sunny. Suddenly, the 8 suns seemed to be affected by some sort of energy, and they started to become blood red as if they were bleeding. A boundless aura spread out like lightning, and the heavens and earth started to change. The primal chaos aura became chaotic, and the sky gradually became blood red while the ground became dark. Everywhere in the chaos world, people who were talking, eating, cultivating with their eyes closed, walking, fighting, and working where all there were people who were talking, people who were eating, people who were cultivating, people who were walking, people who were fighting, people who were working. At this moment, everyone stopped. The ripples didn't just affect a few regions, but the entire primal chaos world. Everyone in the primal chaos world was stunned as they looked at the 8 blood suns in the sky. The people from the Heaven Awakened world also looked incredibly shocked as they looked at the 8 blood-red suns in the sky. They wondered what had happened in the outer world. This time, the anomaly had directly covered the entire chaos world. This was no small matter. It was obvious that it was going to be an earth-shattering event. And as the 8 most important origin stars of the chaos world, which were the 8 suns, there was very little power that could affect it. Even ordinary emperor stars and emperor stars could not compare to the origin stars of the outer world. After all, they were formed naturally and could not be compared to the bright moons and blazing suns. As the origin stars of the outer world, not only could they be seen in the outer world, but they could also be seen in smaller worlds. This was the terrifying power of the origin stars of the outer world. No matter where one was, they would be affected. Ordinary origin stars of the outer world only had 2 types, the sun and the moon, which represented the yin and yang qis of the heavens and earth. Seeing the 8 blood-red suns, the people from the Heaven Awakened world were incredibly shocked and quickly sent news back to their factions. The Heaven Awakened world's countless factions' expressions fell, and they quickly sent experts to take a look. They also prepared to retreat at any moment in case of a disaster. Many of the Heaven Awakened world's higher beings looked at the 8 blood-red suns in the sky seriously. They did not know if such a massive abnormal sign was good or bad for the Heaven Awakened world, and they felt quite worried. As for the outer world sovereigns, Their expressions were quite unsightly. The ultimate forbidden technique that had caused the heavens to fall and the earth to crack, causing stars to dim and space to become chaotic, causing primal chaos to disappear, causing billions of corpses to float and oceans of blood to flow. Hundreds of sovereigns' corpses had appeared. The person who obtained this forbidden technique would become that person's legatee. That person had caused one of the greatest disasters in the history of the outer world and was revered as the #1 evil celestial by many factions. Now that this forbidden technique had appeared, who knew what kind of terrifying things would happen? Countless outer world sorcerers and astrologers tried to divine what would happen in the future, but all of them failed, and some people even suffered backlash. This forbidden technique was an incredibly heaven-defying item by itself, and it contained massive amounts of heaven secrets. Almost no one could divine anything about it. Chapter 1534. The 8 blood-red suns not only caused countless people in the heaven-awakened world to worry, but also caused people in the outer world to feel fear. Neither side knew who had caused it, nor did they know where that person was. The only thing that was certain was that the outer world would be in troubled times in the future. This was a warning so that they would be prepared for the disaster they would face in the future. After a while, countless people looked away and felt quite confused. They looked up at the sky in confusion. After such a long time, the abnormal signs were still there and did not show any signs of disappearing. What was the reason for this? Within the historical remnant, an 8-colored aura flame erupted around Zhao Fu's body, giving off terrifying auras that formed wild gales. Zhao Fu looked quite pained as his bloodline was fusing with an incredibly powerful repelling force and terrifying thing. This made Zhao Fu feel as if he was going to be disintegrated into dust. Zhao Fu was unable to accept this feeling. The clash between the two sides was simply too painful and terrifying. Even with Zhao Fu's divine bloodline, he was unable to immediately fuse with it. Zhao Fu's divine bloodline was unable to help at all. Zhao Fu simply could not take it anymore, and his expression became savage. His eyes were wide open and bloodshot, and his hands formed claws as he raised his head and gave a howl that seemed to pierce through the starry sky. Seeing how pained Zhao Fu looked, Demoji and the other women looked quite worried. Within the boundless void, the 5 massive stars seemed to sense something and suddenly exploded out with 5 heaven-toppling auras. They gave off boundless starlight and lit up the boundless void. The dark void was filled with these 5 lights, and the other stars giving off different starlight automatically submitted, not daring to resist at all. The 5 emperor stars gave off immense pressure as they spun in the sky, and 5 massive waves of emperor star power quickly spread throughout the starry sky. The outer world's 8 blood-red suns suddenly went through changes as 8 terrifying auras exploded out like a heaven-toppling flood, instantly inundating the heavens and earth. Everyone felt as if they had fallen into this flood, and they looked incredibly terrified. They felt as if they were going to suffocate, and their bodies uncontrollably trembled as they instinctively felt terror. The 8 blood-red suns in the sky gave off 5 different lights. One gave off a dark blood-red light. One gave off a noble gold light. One gave off a gray, deathly aura. One gave off a devilish violet light, and one gave off an evil black light. The 5 lights spread out within the blood-red suns. In just an instant, the first sun turned into a blood-red eye filled with malice. It was as if it wanted the world to fall into chaos, for disasters to happen, for massacres to occur, for the living to be plunged into misery and suffering, and for everything in the world to be destroyed. The second sun also turned into a prideful crystal eye that looked down on the world as if it was looking down on ants. It gave off an extremely noble aura, as if even the heavens and earth had to submit to it. The third sun also turned into a gray eye filled with deathly aura. It coldly looked down on the world without any emotions, and it seemed to be able to drag people into the netherworld. The fourth sun also turned into a devilish violet eye that seemed to be interested and gave off a trace of evil. It looked down on the world as if everyone was a plaything in its hands. The fifth sun also turned into a black eye filled with evil. It gave off a bloodthirsty, ruthless, and cruel gaze as it looked at everyone in the world, as if it wanted to kill them all. The five eyes opened up in the sky, and a formless aura spread out. Facing the gazes of the five eyes, everyone felt their hairs stand on end, and they felt immense terror from the depths of their souls. Countless sovereigns and higher beings, even though they stood at the peak of the world and had power that surpassed ordinary people, faced with the five eyes, they all felt a trace of fear. Facing the five terrifying eyes in the sky, they all had different gazes that reigned above all things and looked down on the world. Everything seemed incredibly lowly, and they only felt terror and despair in their hearts. None of the five eyes had a trace of kindness, only deep malice. They wanted the world to be destroyed and everyone to die. At that moment, everyone in the heaven-awakened world felt their hearts sink, and their expressions became quite unsightly. They knew that this matter was not simple at all. For it to display such terrifying power, it was definitely an ultimate taboo. Everyone felt a massive sense of danger looming over their heads. It seemed that everyone in the heaven-awakened world had to be more careful and could not be careless at all. Even though they did not know what was going on, they could not allow the outer world scheme to succeed. Immediately, the heaven-awakened world's people's expressions became serious as they continuously sent more people to strengthen their defenses, preparing to defend against the outer world's attacks. The outer world's people also looked quite confused. They had never thought that such a thing would happen. Wasn't this an ultimate taboo technique? That aura from before was an ultimate taboo technique. So why was there such a change? Those five eyes were simply too terrifying, and it was as if they were going to destroy all worlds and slaughter all living creatures. Even sovereigns felt a trace of fear. Such a terrifying level surpassed the ultimate taboo technique from back then, and everyone could not figure out what was going on. However, they were sure that the person who had obtained the ultimate taboo technique was most likely an incredible person, or else there would not be such a change. Thinking about that, everyone in the outer world's people looked quite fearful. That person would definitely cause great harm in the outer world in the future. Everyone ordered people to strengthen their defenses to deal with any threats in the future so that they would not be unprepared when a catastrophe occurred. The outer world's 8 major races, the 8 most powerful empires, took this matter quite seriously. They spared no expense in trying to find that person's whereabouts. Not only did they want to kill that person, but they also wanted to steal the ultimate taboo technique. However, the heaven-defying abilities they unleashed were completely ineffective. They all suffered great injuries and were seriously injured. Since they were unable to find that person's location, the 8 great empires joined forces to issue a kill order, swearing to kill that person. The various powers also joined in. There were those who feared this power, and there were also those who had great enmity with the number 1 evil immortal. Right now, their goal had always been to kill this person. They definitely could not allow him to harm the chaos world. The outer world was sent into an uproar, and countless people discussed this matter. They collected all information about that person, and if they found anything useful, they would be heavily injured. Chapter 1535. The 5 eyes in the sky slowly turned back into 5 suns, and the blood-red color from the 8 blood-red suns disappeared, turning back into 8 scorching suns that shined down on the world. The heavens and earth became peaceful again, and everyone let out a sigh of relief. No matter if it was the people from the outer world or the heaven-awakened world, none of them knew who had caused all of this. They all strengthened their defenses and tried to find out more information about this matter. In the future, Zhao Fu's name would not only resound throughout the heaven-awakened world, but also throughout the entire outer world. Countless people would fall into shock, and they would all ask the same question. How could there be such a terrifying person? Back in the historical remnant, Zhao Fu used the power of the 5 emperor stars to fuse with the octagonal jade. However, His body was covered with blood, and he powerlessly collapsed to the ground and fell unconscious. Demoji and the other women recovered from their shock. Their husband already had many terrifying powers, such as the divine bloodline, 6 paths of reincarnation, demon lord power, celestial murdering extreme sword intent, billion sovereign dragon emperor blood, and so on. Now, he had obtained an extremely terrifying power, and this power came from the outer world. Just what kind of terrifying existence would their husband become? Now, no matter how prideful they were, they could not raise their heads in front of Zhao Fu at all. They could not compare to Zhao Fu at all. At the same time, they felt quite delighted to be able to follow such a person. Zhu Ji and the other 2 women also looked delighted. Even though they knew that Zhao Fu was quite extraordinary as a holy son, the power that Zhao Fu had displayed far surpassed their expectations. The more terrifying Zhao Fu's power was, the more benefits they would gain from doing it with him. It was enough to make them go crazy, and they wanted to become Zhao Fu's little slaves and receive Zhao Fu's love every day. Seeing Zhao Fu fall to the ground covered with blood, Demoji and the other women hurriedly went up to check on Zhao Fu's injuries before carrying Zhao Fu back to the Qin territory. A few days later, Zhao Fu slowly woke up in Qin's imperial palace. After knowing the news, people in Qin all breathed a sigh of relief. Zhao Fu was the foundation of Qin's imperial palace and was cared for by countless people. Nothing could happen to him. With the current power of the Qin Empire, if Zhao Fu died, no one in the Qin Empire would be qualified to inherit the throne of the Qin Empire. The huge Qin Empire was likely to collapse. The Flower Fairy and Asani stopped their healing magic and gave beautiful smiles as they softly said, "Husband, it's not a big deal. You're awake." They both had powerful healing abilities and were top-tier healers in Qin. Over the past few days, it had been them who had healed Zhao Fu's injuries. Under their powerful magic arts, Zhao Fu had been able to wake up so quickly. Zhao Fu smiled and pulled them into his embrace, and the Flower Fairy sweetly smiled as she nestled against Zhao Fu's embrace. Even though Asani and her mother had served Zhao Fu many times, her face was still bright red. Zhao Fu hugged the 2 beauties and smiled as he asked them what had happened after he had fallen unconscious. After hearing that nothing had happened, he felt slightly at ease. Following this, Zhao Fu pressed the 2 women under him and started to do it with them, recovering his strength. After tasting the 2 women, Zhao Fu's strength recovered a bit, and his face became ruddy and was not as pale as before. "Husband, your cultivation technique really is a perverted cultivation technique. You can recover your strength like this." The Flower Fairy lightly laughed as she lay in Zhao Fu's embrace. "As long as husband can recover his cultivation, I'll do anything," Asani said shyly as she lay on the other side. Zhao Fu hugged the 2 women and lightly laughed before chatting with them for a bit. He then started to examine his body to see what had happened to it after fusing with the octagonal jade. Zhao Fu first found that the octagonal jade had fused into Zhao Fu's body and was no longer a piece of jade. Instead, it had become a mark, and its shape and color were the same as the octagonal jade. The biggest difference was that Zhao Fu felt that there was an additional bloodline within his body. This bloodline came from the outer world, but he could not tell what it was. It felt quite ordinary and weak, as if it did not exist and did not matter. However, Zhao Fu knew that this bloodline was definitely not simple, as it was the bloodline of the octagonal jade. Moreover, the bloodline aura that Zhao Fu sensed was the number 1 evil immortal's aura. In other words, this bloodline was the number 1 evil immortal's bloodline. According to the information from the octagonal jade, the number 1 evil immortal, who had caused a catastrophe in the outer world, originally had the lowest grade of talent and did not have much talent. However, he was incredibly intelligent and intelligent. He knew that he was lacking in that area, so he had been researching and tried to change himself. The process was incredibly difficult, and he was unscrupulous as long as his experiments were successful. That perverted secret technique that allowed him to create insect monsters was something that he had researched a long time ago. It could be seen just how evil and perverted he had been back then. However, it was only by being so perverted and unscrupulous that he was able to go from an extremely ordinary person to the #1 evil immortal in the outer world. From the information that he had obtained, Zhao Fu knew just how difficult it had been for him, and he couldn't help but feel admiration towards this person. Right now, Zhao Fu had only obtained the most basic legacy and did not show any substantial changes in power. Moreover, even though his bloodline was the #1 evil immortal's bloodline, it was actually quite weak. Just like what Zhao Fu had said, it did not have much power at all. The existence of the bloodline was only a core and had no other purpose. This core was the core of the ultimate forbidden technique. The ultimate forbidden technique was called the 8 Forbidden Blood Art, and it was a forbidden technique that could devour all of the bloodlines of the outer world's 8 major races. For example, there were 8 races in the Heaven Awakened world, but they could be split into tens of millions of other bloodlines. The 8 Forbidden Blood Art devoured as many bloodlines as one had, and it could also obtain the abilities of different races. In the end, the #1 evil immortal had devoured countless bloodlines, causing his bloodline to reach the peak of the Saint grade, and he was just a bit away from becoming an origin bloodline. Zhao Fu now understood why, even though he had a divine bloodline, which reigned above countless sovereign bloodlines, he had felt some pressure from his bloodline. It turned out that the #1 evil immortal's bloodline was much more powerful than his. Moreover, the 8 Forbidden Blood Art's abilities were not just that. It also had the ability to shake the outer world, which allowed one to use the outer world's 8 suns as one's fate stars. Just thinking about this could make anyone go crazy. With Zhao Fu's current strength, he could not use the Heaven Awakened world's suns as his fate stars. After all, that was the origin star of a main world, and its power surpassed anything that ordinary people could imagine. Chapter 1536. Apart from these abilities, the 8 Forbidden Blood Art also had the ability to create life at will and devour all kinds of power. However, the prerequisite was that it had to devour the same bloodline, and it was not restricted by any laws. If one cultivated this bloodline and devoured countless bloodlines, even the lowest grade bloodline would become a core bloodline, and it would be incredibly difficult. Moreover, there were no restrictions on devouring, and it could devour anything. In the end, even the heavenly Tao, which was the world's consciousness, could devour it and control the heavenly Tao world's power. This was how terrifying the 8 Forbidden Blood Art was, and it was because of how terrifying it was that it was called the outer world's ultimate forbidden art. Not only did countless people fear its existence and the power it released, but they also madly wanted to obtain it. After obtaining this ultimate forbidden art, they would be able to reach the peak of the world and trample countless geniuses underfoot. It was a pity that Zhao Fu's talent and bloodline were both incredibly high, so it was quite a waste for this forbidden art to fall into Zhao Fu's hands. However, if it was given to an ordinary person, that person would be able to change their fate and become the most powerful person in the world. Of course, this forbidden art was also very useful to Zhao Fu. To be able to obtain such a terrifying item, Zhao Fu smiled. Right now, he had only obtained the forbidden art. Now, it was up to Zhao Fu to develop it. Now that Zhao Fu had a divine bloodline, Zhao Fu did not need to devour low-grade bloodlines, as that would instead cause bloodlines to become mixed and lower the bloodline's power. Moreover, the first evil celestial's talent and bloodline were too poor, and he could only rely on devouring countless low-grade bloodlines before devouring high-grade bloodlines. Otherwise, he would not be able to devour powerful bloodlines. This would result in bloodlines being very mixed up. If a person had thousands or tens of thousands of bloodlines, they would feel very powerful, but with so many bloodlines, their power and bloodline would not be pure, and they would not be able to reach higher realms. Unless one could continuously purify thousands of bloodlines and fuse them into a single bloodline, that kind of bloodline would be terrifying. It was naturally difficult, and only the first evil immortal could do it. Zhao Fu thought about it. Devouring bloodlines was fine, but if it wasn't a sovereign bloodline, Zhao Fu wouldn't devour it. Unless it was a very powerful or special bloodline, he wouldn't devour it. Back then, it seemed like the first evil immortal's bloodline was stuck at the peak of the saint level because of this. Even though Zhao Fu now had an origin mark and could easily raise his origin bloodline, which was already one of the most powerful bloodlines in the world and reigned above countless divine bloodlines, Zhao Fu wanted to use this forbidden technique to surpass his origin bloodline and reach a higher grade bloodline. After looking through the 8 forbidden blood arts information, Zhao Fu smiled as he got off his bed. He took care of the matters he had delayed over the past few days and fused the den into the wyvern's body. Qi now had hundreds of insect den wyverns. These insect den wyverns were incredibly powerful, and a single one could rival 10 or so ordinary ice fire wyverns. They also had long-range attacks, but it was a pity that their numbers were limited by the den, or else they would be a terrifying force. After dealing with Chaos Evil City, Qin's greatest enemy, the other danger zones did not pose much of a threat. As long as they did not gang up on Qin City, there would not be much danger. Zhao Fu once again looked at the situation around Qin City. He was currently discussing this matter with his subordinates, and a while later, a soldier came up to report, "Your Majesty, an ambassador from the mermaid world has come to visit. The emissary of the mermaid world has come to visit and hopes to meet you." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite startled. The mermaid world was to the right of the Lantong people, which was a world above the elf world. Why did they suddenly want to meet him? Zhao Fu thought about it and thought of the reason. He nodded and had the guards bring them in. Following this, a golden-haired woman with a seductive figure walked in with 3 peerlessly beautiful women. One of the 3 peerlessly beautiful women had short green hair and a petite figure. One had long fiery red hair and a seductive figure, and the last one had graceful clothes and a faint smile, giving off a noble aura. These people were all mermaids, and they had legs. However, they did not wear much, revealing a large portion of their snow-white skin. Although mermaids were pure, beautiful, and kind creatures, their appearance aroused the lust of others, making people want to commit crimes. "What is it?" Zhao Fu sat on his throne and gave a trace of a smile as he looked at the women. The beautiful woman smiled and waved her hand, and 10 or so chests of treasures appeared in the hall. They were all treasures that could only be found in the deep sea, and she said, "I've long heard of your Majesty's name, so I've come to visit you today. This is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it, your Majesty." Zhao Fu naturally did not have any interest in these treasures. Even though the pearls were as big as bowls, and they were all crystal clear and gave off a brilliant light, there were also corals with attributes, and there were also conches that could sing. Now that Zhao Fu was the ruler of 6 worlds and had a water world, he naturally did not lack these things. Seeing that Zhao Fu did not dare to be interested, the beautiful woman had expected this. She had only taken out these things to give them some face, and her true gifts were the 3 women behind her. She had long since heard of how dissolute Qin was, and facing such beautiful women, it was impossible for him not to want them. The beautiful woman turned and pointed as she smiled and said, "These 3 are the 3 most beautiful princesses in our mermaid world. Because of your Majesty's fame, they are very fond of your Majesty and are willing to become your Majesty's concubines and serve your Majesty." Zhao Fu looked at the 3 peerlessly beautiful women, and his expression did not change as he said, "What do you want? Hurry up and say it. Our time is limited." Hearing this, the beautiful middle-aged woman could only say seriously, "Your Majesty, we have received news that the Devilhorn Empire is preparing to attack our mermaid world. Please send troops to reinforce our mermaid world, and we will do our best to satisfy all of your Majesty's requests." Zhao Fu smiled and rejected directly, "Sorry, Qin can't help you." This was not because Zhao Fu was afraid of the Devilhorn Empire, but because there was the second Aeolian Empire between Qin and the mermaid world. Moreover, he was right next to the Devilhorn Empire and was quite close. On Qin's side, it was more troublesome to send troops first. He could not go directly to the mermaid world, and he had to bypass the Second Aeolian Empire, which was very disadvantageous to Qin. Chapter 1537. Even though Zhao Fu was a bit dissolute, he was not a muddle-headed ruler. A nobleman cared about lust, but not lust. Zhao Fu was not willing to sacrifice so many soldiers to help the fisherman world. Moreover, the rewards were not worth it for Zhao Fu to act. With just 3 peerlessly beautiful women, Qin's harem could be found everywhere. The beautiful middle-aged woman had never thought that Zhao Fu would refuse so resolutely. However, only Qin could help them, and there was the Second Aeolian Empire next to them. However, with how inhumane the Second Aeolian Empire was, if they went there, they would most likely die. Even though Qin was incredibly bloodthirsty, cold, and ruthless, he was very courteous to those who submitted to him and to envoys. This was why they were willing to come to Qin. Hearing Qin's refusal, it meant that no one was helping the mermaid world, causing the beautiful middle-aged woman's expression to become quite unsightly. Of the 3 women behind her, one had long blue hair and gave off a noble aura. She said with a pitiful expression, "With the might of Qin's empire, we definitely have strength. Please protect our mermaid world, Your Majesty Qin. The 3 of us will do our best to serve you." The other 2 women also pleaded, "Please save the mermaid world, Your Majesty. We will wholeheartedly serve you." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said calmly, "The risk is too great. If you were near Qin, it would be fine, but that is impossible now, so we will not agree. However, with where you are, with the Devil Horn Empire to your left and the Second Aeolian Empire below, with their wild ambitions, they will not let your mermaid world off. As such, your mermaid world will definitely be destroyed. Why don't you submit to Qin as soon as possible? Qin can help you migrate to Qin, and Qin also has a water world. You mermaids most likely do not like living on the Midland continent, so that place will be quite suitable for you." The beautiful woman and the 3 women understood that it was impossible for Qin to help them, and their expressions were quite grim. However, they were quite interested in moving to Qin's place. Now, they also understood that the mermaid world would not be able to survive for long in between the 2 great powers, so there were only 4 ways to face them. The first was to submit to the Devil Horn Empire. However, not only was the Devil Horn Empire incredibly ferocious and perverted, but it also killed those who had already submitted. The second was to submit to the Aeolian Empire, but the Aeolian Empire was too cold and would slaughter at the slightest provocation. The third was to submit to Qin, which Qin had done quite well. The fourth option was to leave this place and live in another place. But it might not be as good as this place in the future. It was very attractive to have the protection of Qin, who was so powerful. However, this was a matter of the world, and they couldn't make the decision. Now that they knew that Qin couldn't help them, they could only say that they would go back and think about it. Zhao Fu did not ask them to stay and continued to discuss with the other ministers about attacking the people from the glass world. The next day, Qin gathered an army and gave off a terrifying aura as they attacked the glass world. The glass world also built a defensive wall and gathered 8 billion soldiers to defend the world. Everyone looked incredibly nervous, and the atmosphere became quite oppressive. It was as if a storm was brewing. The Devil Horn Empire gathered its army from the right, wanting to attack Qin from the right. Of course, it was only gathering its soldiers. It was not so kind as to block at the front while the glass world enjoyed its blessings. They wanted to wait for Qin to attack the glass world. That way, they would be able to minimize their losses. Moreover, with the glass world advantage, they would be able to attack Qin from both sides, which was quite advantageous to them. If Qin dared to attack them, they would definitely heavily wound Qin and show Qin their strength. However, what surprised them was that Qin actually sent out 20 billion soldiers, splitting them into 2 groups. One group directly attacked the glass world, while the other attacked the Devil Horn Empire's right flank. It would not be a problem for Qin to send out 10 billion soldiers to deal with a new world, but 10 billion soldiers to deal with the Devil Horn Empire was not very appropriate. Qin and the Devil Horn Empire both had soldiers defending the Second Aeolian Empire. This time, the Devil Horn Empire had sent out 20 billion soldiers to attack Qin, which was 10 billion more than Qin. However, even if Qin only had 20 billion soldiers, there was nothing to fear. Zhao Fu personally led a group of soldiers, and Bai Qi led a group of soldiers, giving off massive killing auras as they started to move. Zhao Fu led a group of soldiers and quickly met with the Devil Horn Empire's army. Both sides gave off heaven-shaking auras, and all of the soldiers looked incredibly serious and resolute. One side was covered in green armor, while the other side was covered in black armor. After arriving here, because they did not have much time to set up defenses, Zhao Fu ordered his people to form defensive formations. Their main goal was not to attack, but to defend against the Devil Horn Empire's attack, while the other side destroyed the glass world. Zhao Fu and Gue Ji stood in the air, and facing them, Yao Ming's expression was quite unsightly. Even with his nation armament, he did not dare to fight with Zhao Fu because he might have to face two people at once. Yao Ming was quite familiar with Qin's various methods and had made preparations. However, since Qin dared to stop him with 10 billion soldiers, he most likely had some sort of trump card. Yao Ming started to become wary. However, now that Qin had formed a defensive formation, if he did not attack out of fear, Qin's goal would be achieved, and the other side would be able to easily destroy the glass world. After thinking for a while, Yao Ming decided to use the long-haired demon race's ability to probe the other side. Tall, black-furred people giving off dense, demonic qi walked out from the army. Looking at Qin's army, they gave off serious expressions and roared. Massive waves of demonic qi flowed out from their bodies, bringing with them massive auras as a wild gale blew out. Bang! 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 The long-haired demon race people punched the ground, causing the ground to crack. Countless traces of demonic qi flowed out, forming humanoid demons. They had a single horn and were covered with black fur, and they had sharp claws on their feet. There were 1 billion or so of them, and they gave off dark demonic qi as they turned into black shadows and attacked Qin's army. Facing the incoming demons, Zhao Fu felt quite disdainful. He raised his hand, and 8 massive golden crystals flew into the sky. Scree. Chapter 1538. Under the searing sunlight, the demons on the ground, which gave off a dark aura, were like snow meeting the scorching sun. They gave off traces of black aura and howled before slowly dissipating. There were many of these demons, but they were not very strong and could be easily dealt with. The 8 crystals that Zhao Fu had thrown out were naturally sun god stones that had absorbed boundless sunlight from the outer world. They were incredibly harmful to darkness creatures, and under the 8 scorching suns, they all turned into demonic qi and dissipated. However, Yao Ming had also seen this, so when the demons attacked, he split his army of 20 billion soldiers into 2 teams and attacked from the left and right. The 2 armies were like a massive flood, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything as they rushed towards Qin's army. Fire! Zhao Fu ordered, and arrows containing immense force shot out, tearing through the air and shooting towards the 2 armies like raindrops. The 2 armies exploded out with traces of green aura from their bodies, forming a green mist that covered the 2 armies. Arrows quickly descended, but after entering the green mist, they seemed to be powerless and landed on the ground, unable to deal any damage at all. Core formation! Zhao Fu once again ordered, and countless traces of aura rose up from Qin's army. 2 massive black dragons that were hundreds of thousands of meters long gave off massive auras as they gave off killing intent towards the 2 armies. The green aura around the 2 armies quickly fused together, forming 2 massive green dragons that gave off ferocious auras as they rushed towards the 2 black dragons. Bang! 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 The 4 massive dragons ferociously clashed in the sky, head against head, claws against claws, and tails against tails. They ferociously attacked, causing explosions to sound out and terrifying shockwaves to spread out, causing people's bodies to feel a chill. In terms of size, the two green dragons were larger than Qin's black dragons because they each had 10 billion soldier chi, while Qin's side only had 50. However, Qin's side had an advantage, which was that its cultivation was higher than the Devilhorn Empire's. This scene was quite surprising. As a new world, its cultivation base was actually higher than that of a world that had developed for several decades. The reason for this was naturally due to the heaven and earth refining formation. It was slowly increasing Qin's advantage and foundation, and sooner or later, it would surpass the Devilhorn Empire. However, the two armies continued to charge forward like a flood. Xiao, xiao, xiao. The two armies also shot out countless sharp arrows, giving off sharp auras as they flew towards Qin's soldiers. On Qin's side, the shield bearers at the front raised their shields, which gave off rays of black light and formed a massive protective barrier that blocked the incoming arrows. The two armies continued to charge forwards, and the distance between them was only tens of thousands of meters. The Devilhorn soldiers gripped their weapons and had savage expressions as they roared. Qin's soldiers gripped their weapons and had cold expressions as they prepared to receive the attack. Zhao Fu stood in the air and faced the armies coming from the left and right. He gave off a transcendent aura and threw a scroll into the air. The cross-shaped pupil in his right eye and the 6 gray dots quickly spun as a massive wave of yin qi spread out. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the scroll exploded out with dense yin qi, which spread out like lightning and covered the sky. An eerie gale blew, and the surrounding temperature plummeted. The surroundings were filled with ghostly qi, making it seem as if they were in the underworld. Ark. Mournful howls sounded out as the dense yin qi that spread out formed ghosts with green faces and fangs. Their hands were like sharp claws, and there were a terrifying 1 billion of them. Most of these 1 billion ghosts had stage 2 or 3 cultivation, and they were not like the ones that the Devilhorn Empire had summoned. The scroll was the one that Zhao Fu had obtained from the Underworld Mark. 1 billion stage 2 or 3 monsters could rival 6 or 7 billion stage 1 soldiers. This caused the Devilhorn army's hearts to sink, and the Devilhorn army's advantage greatly decreased. Boom! Standing in the air, the golden pupil in Zhao Fu's left eye quickly spun, and a few chains shot out from his body into the ground. A heaven-toppling aura rushed out from the ground, turning into a black pillar of light that shot into the sky. A massive giant slowly rose up from the ground. A massive aura spread out like a flood, inundating everything in the surroundings and causing everyone to feel terror. This was the primogenitor statue, and Yao Ming knew that Qin had used it to deal with the spirit light world. Now that he had personally seen it, he felt quite shocked. How could it be so powerful? If such a massive creature was used in battle, it would be dozens of times more powerful than an ordinary Emperor Heaven expert. Countless ghosts flooded down from the sky, giving off massive amounts of ghostly qi as they charged towards an army. The two sides quickly clashed, and even though there were only 1 billion ghosts, they were able to charge into the army. A ghost leapt onto a soldier's body and bit down with its fangs, tearing out a soldier's throat. Another ghost grabbed out with its hand, piercing a soldier's chest and digging out a fresh heart. Another ghost loudly laughed as it tore a soldier in half, causing his organs to fall to the ground. Blood flew everywhere and pained cries sounded out. An intense battle erupted, and the sound of weapons clashing continuously sounded out as powerful auras spread out. Standing in the air, Zhao Fu slowly stretched out a hand and grabbed at the air. The primogenitor statue below also stretched out a hand and vigorously grabbed at the air, causing a blood-red sword to appear. A massive amount of power entered the Kusanagi no Tsurugi sword, causing it to give off traces of a terrifying aura, causing the surrounding space to twist. Zhao Fu stood in the air, holding a formless sword in his hand, and he vigorously slashed out. Xing, the primogenitor statue, vigorously slashed out with Zhao Fu, and a sword hum tore through the air as an unimaginably massive sword light spread out, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to sweep through everything. The expressions of the incoming army fell, and they hurriedly exploded out with waves of green aura that gathered in front of them, wanting to block that sword light. Boom! The massive sword light gave off terrifying power as it split the green aura in front of the soldiers in half. The soldiers at the front were instantly diced into pieces, creating a gory scene. However, even though the 10 billion soldiers had not gathered all of their aura, they had gathered more than half. Even though they had not been able to block that sword light, they had greatly reduced its power, and only a few million soldiers had died. Chapter 1539. Swish, swish, swish. Qin's side first shot out countless arrows, which contained immense force as they tore through the sky and descended like a torrential rain. The devil-horned soldiers, who had lost their defenses, were unable to resist at all against such a massive rain of arrows. They were all hit, and their bodies were pierced by countless arrows. Blood sprayed everywhere as cries continuously sounded out, and countless people immediately died. Kill! Qin's side also charged, and the Black Army ferociously charged at the Devil Horn Army with an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the Qin's army ferociously slammed into the Devil Horn Army, and the two sides started to fight. A Qin soldier swung his saber and chopped off the head of a Devil Horn soldier, causing blood to splatter onto his face. Another Qin soldier stabbed his spear into the mouth of a Devil Horn soldier and came out from the back of his neck. A great Qin soldier exploded out with an aura and ferociously swung his sledgehammer, sending 2 or 3 people flying. Another great Qin soldier held a massive axe and vigorously swung it, killing soldiers one after another. The Devil Horn Army desperately fought with Qin's soldiers, roaring as the sound of weapons clashing continuously sounded out. Cries continuously sounded out, and blood dyed the ground red as more and more people died on both sides. Zhao Fu controlled the primogenitor statue to once again raise its Kusanagi no Tsurugi and vigorously slash out, sending out a massive sword energy that seemed to be able to destroy all things. Under the massive sword energy, countless devil horn soldiers were like ants, and they were chopped into countless pieces of meat. The ground was dyed red, and the stench of blood filled the air. The scene was incredibly gory. Yao Ming's expression was quite unsightly because most of the people who died were devil horn soldiers. If this went on, the Devil Horn Army would suffer heavy casualties. The Devil Horn Army had once again lost. They had never thought that Qin would be able to summon so many ghosts. Moreover, that primogenitor statue was simply too terrifying. Retreat. Seeing this, Yao Ming did not hesitate and loudly gave the order, and the Devil Horn Army started to retreat. Qin gave chase for a while, but he was worried that there might be an ambush, so he did not continue to give chase. Moreover, the most important thing right now was to defend this place and prevent the Devil Horn Army from attacking another army. Zhao Fu did not leave either, and he was responsible for standing guard here to prevent anything unexpected from happening. As for the other side, he left it to Bai Qi. On the other side of the battlefield, Bai Qi was also giving orders to attack the glass world. Bang, bang, bang. The holy light god emissaries and insect den wyverns shot out beams of light that contained massive power as they slammed into the defensive walls, resulting in terrifying explosions. The terrifying power easily tore through glass world's defenses. Shio, shio, shio. Arrows containing terrifying power drew out arcs in the air before howling as they descended, causing countless glass people to be hit. Some immediately died, while others fell to the ground and howled. Roar! Qin's beasts gave off ferocious attacks. Massive spiders quickly climbed up the defensive walls and used their blade-like legs to kill glass soldiers. The soldiers' bodies were cut into many pieces, creating a bloody and cruel scene. Countless ice fire wyverns spewed out flames and icy blasts in the sky, attacking the defensive walls. Countless glass soldiers were either burned to death or frozen by the icy blasts, resulting in countless deaths. Over 10,000 illusion flower devils also bloomed beautiful flowers, and countless pollen floated towards the glass soldiers. The glass soldiers breathed in the pollen, causing them to freeze and fall into an illusion, unable to break free. In the end, Bai Qi gave the order, and Qin's soldiers attacked like a black flood as they ferociously charged at the glass soldiers. The glass soldiers desperately gave up and continuously roared as they charged at Qin's soldiers. They shot out countless arrows at Qin's beasts, but they were not very effective. The battle was completely one-sided, and the glass soldiers were not a match for them at all. Even though Dong Yueli was a world protector and was incredibly powerful, he could not compare to an extreme divine realm expert. He was captured by Long Hao Air in just a few exchanges, unable to resist at all. Following this, the glass people were completely defeated, and Qin's soldiers broke through the glass world's defenses. They charged into the glass world and flooded out. The countless glass people looked terrified. In the end, their glass world could not avoid the fate of being destroyed, even if they had allied with the Devil Horn Empire. They had been hoping for the Devil Horn Empire's army to arrive and deal a heavy blow to Great Qin, but they had never expected to see anyone. Now the glass world was in chaos, and most people started to escape. Without the heavenly domain boundary blocking them, everyone could easily leave the glass world without any restrictions. Some people wanted to escape to the Devil Horn Empire's protection, believing that since they were allies, the Devil Horn Empire would treat them well. Qin's actions were quite fast, and he first surrounded the glass world before slowly suppressing it. He did not allow a large number of people to escape. Countless glass people knelt on the ground, trembling in fear. Looking at Qin's soldiers walking into their cities, they did not dare to resist at all, as those who had resisted before had their stomachs cut open and were hung on city walls. Qin quickly took control of the glass world, and after the battle concluded, Qin was able to take down the glass world. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu smiled and led his army to the glass world, and the two armies gathered together. Sitting on a tall throne, Zhao Fu smiled as he listened to Bai Qi report the results of the battle. After taking down the glass world, they had obtained 32 billion people, 70,000 cities, countless towns, villages, and countless treasures. They had killed 4 billion people in the glass world. Apart from soldiers, there were also some residents who resisted, and Qin's casualties were less than 300 million. Before, Qin already had 410 billion people and 590,000 cities. Now that they had 32 billion people and 70,000 cities, they now had 442 billion people and 660,000 cities. Hearing this, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. Not only had Qin's strength increased, but Qin now had 7 worlds with a glass world. They were only 3 worlds away from becoming a royal kingdom. Your Majesty, I helped you capture that world protector. Long Hao Air leaned against Zhao Fu and gave a trace of a smile as she spoke to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and had people bring Dong Yueli over. Dong Yueli's face was pale as he was brought over by a few guards. His hair and clothes were in a mess, and there were traces of blood on them. He looked quite dispirited and no longer had the high-spirited and extraordinary aura of the world protector. Chapter 1540. Dong Yueli thought about it before kneeling on the ground and saying, I'm willing to submit to your majesty. Please accept my submission. Zhao Fu revealed a satisfied smile. This Dong Yueli was quite tactful, so he accepted his submission and had people take him away. At that moment, a trace of a smile appeared on Bai Qi's face as he said, Your Majesty, I have also prepared some beauties for you. They're the most beautiful women in the glass world. Please enjoy them, Your Majesty. I will take my leave first. Zhao Fu chuckled and nodded. Following this, the 6 women were brought over. The first was a tall and beautiful woman with an elegant aura. She was called Hilime, and she was Dong Yueli's mother. The second was a beautiful woman with a mature figure. She was Dong Yueli's married older sister, Dong Jimei. Of the remaining four, one had a fiery figure and gave off a slightly flirtatious aura, and she was called Nuame. One had a slim figure and a gentle appearance, and she was called Wang Yaji. One had a voluptuous figure and looked somewhat silly, and she was called Nan Min. One was a skinny woman with a stubborn look, and she was called Bai Heli. Zhao Fu looked at the six women. They had white hair and gave off soul-stirring auras. They were extremely beautiful, and they were worthy of being the most beautiful people in the glass world. Hilime gave a trace of a flirtatious smile as she said coquettishly, "Your Majesty, are you satisfied with us? Hurry up and enjoy us. I also want to know how wonderful it is to do it with His Majesty." She already knew that her son had submitted, and she also understood why she had come here. She could not refuse any of this and could only comply. She thought that serving Zhao Fu well would be of great help to her son in the future. That thin and stubborn Bai Heli said coldly, "Just kill me. I won't serve anyone." Zhao Fu ignored them and lightly smiled as he walked towards them and started to do it with them. Under Zhao Fu's body, the women moaned lewdly. After that, Hilime held Zhao Fu in her arms with a flushed face. Although she had heard that the Prince of Qin was a playboy, she didn't expect that she could have such a wonderful time with him. Gradually, she was infatuated with this feeling. Dong Yueli's big sister also lay in Zhao Fu's embrace with a red face. She had only come to serve Zhao Fu in order to protect her husband and little brother from harm, and she had wanted to sacrifice her body. However, she now felt that she had betrayed her husband both physically and spiritually. She enjoyed doing it with this man who wasn't her husband. Bai Heli, who had a stubborn look on her face and wanted to resist Zhao Fu, also collapsed to the side. Hilime's face was red and alluring, and she smiled as she said, "Your Majesty, how do we taste? This is the first time you've enjoyed a woman of the glass race. Don't you feel that our women are different from other women?" Zhao Fu chuckled and replied, "Not bad. The women of the glass race did indeed have something that ordinary women didn't have. Their bodies were slightly cold, and their skin was delicate. It would be a great pleasure to do it with them in the summer." Hilime chuckled and said, "Your Majesty, since you like it, I have a few sisters who are on good terms with me. Later, I will ask them to serve you together. They will definitely like your Majesty." At this time, Hilime was thinking that if she could get more helpers, her position in Qin's harem would be different in the future. Zhao Fu did not refuse. He planned to bring some back to enjoy himself. Following this, Zhao Fu led the army back to Qin and made these women concubines. A large amount of phoenix qi flowed into the Emperor Phoenix statue. Howl! A phoenix cry sounded throughout the sky as the Emperor Phoenix statue gave off an intense golden light and turned into a 70,000-meter wide golden phoenix. It flew into the sky and gave off boundless golden light, dyeing the entire sky golden. Now, the Emperor Phoenix statue's power was incredibly great, and it far surpassed ordinary nation armaments' power. It was even stronger than ordinary clan armaments, and it was just a bit away from having the primogenitor statue's power. After conquering the glass world, Zhao Fu's next step was to properly digest it and fully control it, making it a part of Qin. A few days later, the massive desolate god temple did not have a single believer, making it seem quite spacious. Within the main hall of the desolate god temple, a woman's moans sounded out. She had blood-red short hair and a fiery figure, and she gave off a wild aura as she was being ravaged by a handsome-looking young man. Zhao Fu said unhappily, "Why hasn't that blood god demon been created after so long?" The desolate god said unhappily, "I don't want to. It's just that it's too difficult to create a blood god demon. Before, I didn't have the power to create one, but now that I have the power, I just lack a suitable god emissary. I feel that the desolate crow race is very suitable. Have someone bring a few over." Zhao Fu nodded, and the two of them continued to do that indescribable thing. In the end, the desolate god collapsed in Zhao Fu's embrace, and only then did Zhao Fu order his guards to bring a few top-grade desolate race women over. On a stage, the red-faced desolate god stretched out a jade-like hand and pressed it against the forehead of a half-kneeling woman. Her palm gave off an intense blood-red light that entered the woman's body, causing her eyes to become blood-red. A blood-red beast-like mark appeared on the woman's forehead. This was the desolate god's god mark. Anyone who obtained this god mark would become her god emissary. Following this, dozens of wild beasts were tied up and placed around the stage. These wild beasts did not know what was going on, and they struggled and howled. However, the desolate god's expression was quite serious as she stood at the center of the stage. She took out a dagger and slashed out, causing a sharp arc of light to fly out and cut open the throats of dozens of wild beasts. The wild beasts howled in pain as blood flowed out of their throats, dyeing the ground blood-red. The desolate god held the dagger and cut open her own wrist, causing blood to flow out. Under her control, the blood continuously condensed and formed a blood-red rune. At that moment, the desolate god stretched out a finger, causing the blood-red rune to give off an intense blood-red light and fly into the air. It gave off a formless suction force, causing the blood flowing out of the wild beasts' throats to be sucked into the air, and an orb of blood appeared in the air. The desolate god called over the woman who had become her god emissary and cut open her wrist. She let out some of her blood and fused it into the orb of blood. The woman seemed to be able to form a connection with the orb of blood and control it. This orb of blood was 2 meters wide and gave off a faint blood-red light. It floated in the air and did not have any power. Zhao Fu frowned as he looked at this orb of blood that did not have any power and asked, "Is this the blood god demon you were talking about?" The desolate god had just created a blood god demon and was in a good mood, so she smiled and nodded. Chapter 1541. The desolate god could sense Zhao Fu's emotions and lightly harumphed as she said, "Don't look down on how weak it is right now. When it grows up, you'll know how powerful it is, and it definitely won't disappoint you. If you don't believe me, I'll show you." The desolate god stretched out her hand, and the orb of blood turned into a blood-red spear. The desolate god waved her hand, and the blood-red spear gave off ferocious power as it shot towards a nearby beast. The blood-red spear pierced through the beast's body, instantly killing it. What was quite shocking was that the blood spear automatically turned into blood water and fused into the wild beast. The dead wild beast once again came back to life and was filled with life energy. It was as if it hadn't died at all, and it didn't look like it had died at all. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked and asked the desolate god, "What kind of ability is this?" The desolate god gave a prideful smile as she said, "This is just a basic ability of the blood god demon's many abilities. It can seep into living creatures' bodies and control their bodies and souls. It's still weak right now, but when it's strong enough, it can control hundreds of millions of people. Also, try attacking it." Hearing this, Zhao Fu waved his hand and a sword light slashed out, splitting the revived beast in half. However, what was surprising was that not a single drop of blood flowed out of the corpse. The desolate god smiled as she explained, "This kind of attack won't harm blood god demons at all." The desolate god grabbed at the corpse, causing the blood water to flow into it and form a new orb of blood. It was slightly bigger than before, and it was most likely because it had absorbed all of the beast's blood. The corpse had become a dried-up corpse. At that moment, the desolate god lightly tapped with her hand, and the orb of blood continuously changed, forming a 2-meter-tall, powerful-looking blood-red person. Because the orb of blood had fused into the beast's body, not only had it absorbed all of the beast's blood, but had also absorbed some of its power. Before, the orb of blood did not give off any energy ripples, but now it did. The desolate god did not control it anymore, and instead ordered it to kill the remaining beasts. The blood-red person heard the order and walked over to the tied-up beasts. The beasts instinctively felt a wave of fear and cried out in terror, but their cries soon stopped. The blood-red man's arm split into a few blood-red tentacles, which stretched towards the beasts. The tentacles then split into a few more tentacles, which reached into the beasts' mouths, eyes, noses, and ears. The wild beasts quickly died, and their bodies withered like dried corpses. It was quite terrifying to look at. The blood-red figure's aura became slightly stronger, and it retracted its blood-red tentacles and killed a few wild beasts before returning to its original position. Zhao Fu stood by the side and saw the potential of the blood god demons. Even though they were quite weak right now, they would be quite powerful in the future. He smiled as he said, "How many of these blood god demons can you nurture?" The origami replied simply, "With my current strength, I can nurture 12 of them." Zhao Fu felt quite disappointed and felt that it was too little. He asked, "Why is it so little? Can it be more?" The desolate god rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. "Do you think the blood god demons are strong because of their numbers? They rely on their individual strength. In the divine realm, even the strongest origami can only nurture up to 100 blood god demons. It's impossible for you to build an army." Even though Zhao Fu was somewhat disappointed, he could only helplessly accept this result. He wanted to see just how terrifying these 12 blood god demons were. At that moment, a guard came up and reported, "Your Majesty, there are reports that the Devil Horn Empire's army is secretly moving and might be attacking the mermaid world." Hearing this, Zhao Fu immediately returned to the palace and gathered the ministers for a discussion. The mermaid world had also received the news. All of them looked nervous and even a little scared. Now that they had returned to the sea, their bodies had also changed back. Their upper bodies were that of humans, and their lower bodies were that of fish. Within the palace, there were hundreds of mermaids gathered. They all had powerful auras and extraordinary bearings, and they all belonged to large factions. Facing the incoming Devil Horn army, the various factions held an emergency meeting. The blue-haired big man's aura was the most powerful, and he was the most powerful expert in the mermaid world. His faction was also the most powerful, and he said, "What should we do? Qin will not help us, and it is even more impossible for the Second Aeolian Empire to help us. Facing the Devil Horn Empire, we are not a match for it. Should we fight to the death, or should we surrender and preserve our lives?" A young man said loudly, "I feel that the mermaid world cannot be weak and should fight with the Devil Horn Empire. Moreover, we might not necessarily lose. Even though Qin did not agree to send reinforcements, he will definitely try to tie us down in other ways. We still have a chance." The cruel-looking young man said in agreement, "I think we can fight. I don't want to submit to anyone, nor do I want to leave the mermaid world." The golden-haired, golden-tailed, peerlessly beautiful middle-aged woman said worriedly, "If Qin attacks the Devil Horn Empire with his full strength, the Devil Horn Empire naturally will not attack the mermaid world. However, going all out will result in massive losses, and Qin will not benefit us at all. Moreover, our relationship with Qin is quite ordinary, so there is no need for him to help us." An elderly mermaid sighed and said, "That's right. We can't place too much hope in Qin. If Qin does not act, what should we do?" The gentle-looking middle-aged woman thought for a moment before saying, "Let's discuss whether we should retreat or submit to the Devil Horn Empire. If we fight, the mermaid world will have no hope at all." At that moment, the beautiful middle-aged woman who had brought the 3 princesses to Qin said, "Of the 3 factions here, Qin is undoubtedly the best choice. Moreover, Emperor Qin personally admitted that he will help us relocate." Hearing this, some people looked delighted and agreed, but most of them still hesitated. They had high statuses in the mermaid world and stood above tens of thousands of people. Now that they had to submit to someone else and be suppressed by countless people, they felt quite uncomfortable. Moreover, after entering Qin, would the life they want to be the same as what they wanted? Moreover, Emperor Qin was incredibly lustful. Would he take a fancy to their women? As a mermaid race, their men were quite handsome, and their women were quite beautiful. There were many times more beauties and handsome men than in ordinary worlds. All of this was what they were worried about. During the meeting, everyone raised their own opinions and debated endlessly, but no conclusion was reached. Chapter 1542. The Devilhorn Army's 15 billion soldiers flooded into the Fishman world and split into 4 groups to attack the 4 continents. The Fishman factions had never thought that the Devilhorn Army would attack so quickly, and they hurried back and gathered their forces to resist. However, the Fishman Army was not Sheen's soldiers. Even though they were water race people and had great advantages in fighting in the water, the Devil race also had fishmen, and they had many aquatic beasts. The ordinary soldiers were stronger than the fishmen, and they were more ferocious and had battle experience. The 2 sides ferociously clashed, causing cries to continuously sound out. Blood dyed the water red, and the battle was incredibly intense. A Devilhorn soldier roared, and his eyes became blood red as he grew countless fangs and continuously attacked, biting a few people to death. A Devilhorn soldier held a spear and pierced through a fishman's tail, killing him. A Devilhorn fishman lewdly attacked a female mermaid, and the female mermaid desperately resisted. In the end, she was killed with a single slash, and her breasts were cut off by the fishman, and he ate them as if they were very delicious. A massive aquatic beast charged over like a massive black blur. It opened its mouth and bit down, killing 10 or so fishmen, causing limbs to fall everywhere and blood to dye the water red. The fishmen desperately resisted, but they were evidently not a match for the Devilhorn soldiers, and they were continuously forced back. Boom, boom, boom. Massive auras spread out as a few powerful auras exploded out from the depths of the ocean. They were the Fishman Ocean's overlords. One was a 10,000-meter long, black and white, ugly sea snake. One had the upper body of a human and the lower body of a seahorse, a massive squid, and a 10,000-meter long shark. The 4 of them also attacked the Devilhorn Army. The 10,000-meter long sea snake opened its mouth and spat out a large amount of poisonous water, dyeing the water blue, and the Devilhorn soldiers within the water were poisoned to death. The half-human, half-seahorse monster swung its spear, sending out massive shockwaves that flooded towards the Devilhorn Army and sent countless Devilhorn soldiers flying. Some soldiers were directly turned into piles of mud. A massive squid gave off immense power as it charged towards the Devilhorn Army. Its barbed tentacles tore apart soldiers' bodies, causing blood to fly everywhere, creating a gory scene. In the end, the shark opened its massive mouth and rushed into the Devilhorn Army, devouring them in large mouthfuls. Blood dyed the water red, and its tail sent countless Devilhorn soldiers flying. Those who were sent flying were either killed or crippled. The 4 deep-sea giant beasts led a group of sea beasts to launch a counterattack. This slightly saved the mermaid world from defeat, but the situation was still not optimistic. The Devilhorn Empire's King Devil Beast joined the battle and killed 4 deep-sea massive beasts, declaring the Fishman world's defeat. The soldiers of the mermaid world began to retreat on a large scale. Countless mermaids fell into panic and hurriedly packed up their belongings to escape. Countless ferocious Devilhorn soldiers rushed into the cities, and looking at the beautiful female mermaids and handsome male mermaids, they savagely laughed before charging at the mermaids. They rushed in and hacked the old mermaid and the little mermaid to death. Some of the stronger mermaid males dared to resist, but they were caught and skinned. Their tails were stripped of the scales, and they were hung on the city walls. The bloodied and pitiful mermaids gave pained cries, creating a chilling scene. Some had already begun to press the female mermaids to the ground and began to viciously violate them, ignoring their pleas. One by one, they took turns to violate them. Some mermaids couldn't even bear death, but their corpses were still being violated. The female mermaids were treated like this, and the weaker male mermaids were the same. Their teeth were knocked out, and evil things ravaged their mouths, anus and anus. In order to survive, some of the male mermaids not only did not resist, but they cooperated with the 10 or so people ravaging them. In the end, They were covered with liquid and fell to the side of the road, half dead. Some people were not interested in these things and started to plunder the mermaids' belongings. At the same time, they found the mermaids who were hiding and killed them. Their corpses were also thrown outside, and the aquatic beasts would eat these corpses. Apart from some aquatic beasts, some devil horn soldiers liked to eat them because they had taboo power within their bodies. The ones who tasted the best were naturally the women and children. After capturing the mermaids, they pressed them to the ground and ate them raw. This was the best way to preserve the freshness of the food. Countless women and children let out incomparably mournful cries, and in the end, they were eaten alive by those people. Those people's strength also increased. At the same time, they could not help but sigh in amazement. The flesh of mermaids was many times more delicious than that of fishmen. Even though they were both fish, the difference in taste was so great. On the other side, Cheen was also attacking the Devil Horn Empire, but he did not attack with his full strength. After all, the Devil Horn Empire was heavily guarded, and a full-scale attack would cause great losses. After all, the Devil Horn Empire was not the only enemy nearby. There was also the terrifying Second Aeolian Empire and countless other worlds. As such, Cheen could not go all out against the Devil Horn Empire and allow others to take advantage. The Devil Horn Empire had set up all sorts of defensive measures against Cheen, making it so that Cheen's attacks were not as effective. By now, Zhao Fu knew that the mermaid world had been easily conquered, so he could only sigh and order the army at the front lines to retreat. There was no point in continuing to attack. A large number of the mermaid world's people ran in all directions, and Yao Ming did not want to lose a large number of people, so he gave the order to stop them. However, at that moment, the Second Aeolian Empire, which had not done anything after destroying the Gold God world, suddenly acted, wanting to stop the fleeing mermaids. They would not be so kind as to help the Devil Horn world, as they needed people. As such, they wanted to take over a large number of people and would not lose too much of their forces. After all, the mermaid world's main force had been destroyed by the Devil Horn Empire. As such, the Aeolian Empire came to take advantage of the situation. Because they had been prepared this entire time, their results were not weak at all. After hearing about this, Yao Ming's expression became quite furious and unsightly. After thinking about it, he decided to give up on those people. With the Devil Horn Empire's current strength, it was not suitable to fight against the Second Aeolian Empire. Yao Ming gave the order to surround the mermaid world to prevent more people from escaping and to prevent the Second Aeolian Empire from spying on them. Chapter 1543. Facing the Second Aeolian Empire, who was gradually surrounding them, they could either submit or fight their way out. Apart from Cheen, no faction dared to take them in. Seeing how cold the Second Aeolian Empire was, it did not hesitate to directly kill them and did not place them in its eyes at all. The Second Aeolian Empire's soldiers were all from the inner regions, so they naturally looked down on people from the outer regions. Affected by this, the ordinary wind spirit soldiers also became slightly arrogant. Now, the mermaids only had one choice, which was Cheen, so they all gathered in Cheen's direction. "Madam, take your child and run. As long as you get close to Cheen, you'll be safe." As one of the most powerful factions here, the Cheen Empire dares to fight against an empire from the inner regions. "They'll definitely save you," the blue-haired big man said with a serious expression. The fish-scale world's most powerful expert, the blue-haired big man, had a serious expression as he spoke to a dignified-looking middle-aged woman with long, blue hair. The middle-aged woman looked quite reluctant and wanted to refuse her husband's request to stay with them. However, looking at her 5-year-old daughter in her arms, who was trembling in fear, she could only grit her teeth and nod. The blue-haired big man let out a sigh of relief before turning to look at the golden-haired woman and the gentle-looking woman from the meeting and saying, "I'll bring people to stall the Second Aeolian Empire. As for my wife and daughter, I'll leave them to you." Now, all of the men decided to stay to stall the Second Aeolian Empire and have the elderly, women, and children leave first. If they did not do this, they would not be able to escape. The golden-haired woman was the most powerful and had the most prestige, so she was responsible for bringing people away. She nodded seriously and said, "Don't worry, I'll definitely protect your wife and child and won't mistreat them in the future." Of the three most beautiful princesses who had gone to Qin before, one was the golden-haired woman's daughter, and the other was the gentle-looking woman's daughter. As for the last one, she was nestled in a handsome-looking man's embrace. She already had someone she liked. "Honey, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. I'll be waiting for you in Qin." She looked at the handsome man affectionately. The man said worriedly, "Actually, I don't want you to go to Qin. I'm afraid that Qin's prince will take you. I'm afraid that I'll desperately go to Qin and lose you in the end. However, if I die, I want you to have a good home." The woman looked incredibly moved, and hot tears welled up in her eyes as she tightly hugged the handsome man. "I will definitely protect my body and wait for you to come back to enjoy it. I won't give it to that Prince Qin." The elegant, beautiful middle-aged woman, who had led the team to Qin City, smiled and said, "Don't worry, I've personally seen that Emperor Qin's city's legatee. He has a transcendent aura, and his actions are dignified and domineering. He's not someone that ordinary kings can compare to. Moreover, he wasn't very interested in us and wasn't as licentious as the rumors say." This caused some people who were originally worried about this matter to heave a sigh of relief. A fat man happily said to a flirtatious woman, "Xiaolon, look, you have to wait for me in Qin City. Your body is mine and can't be touched by anyone." The charming woman rolled her eyes and said coquettishly, "Do I look like that kind of person? If you say that again, I'm going to get angry." The fat man hurriedly apologized. A cold-looking young man said to a mature, weak-looking woman with a serious expression, "Mother, you have to take care of your little brother." The weak-looking woman nodded with a resolute gaze and said worriedly, "Right now, I'm most worried about you. I'm afraid that something will happen to you, so you have to take care of your own safety. If you can't hold on, just surrender and keep your life." The cold-looking young man's expression softened, and he lightly said, I know." A beautiful and gentle-looking woman said seriously, "Little brother, you have to take care of your own safety. We've depended on each other since we were young, and to be honest, I don't want to be separated from you and put you in such danger." The gentle-looking young man hurriedly said, "Big sister, you should leave with him first. I don't want anything to happen to you. You're the most important person in my life, and if you die, I don't want to live either. Only when you're safe can I be at ease." The woman looked quite worried and said unhappily, "All right, big sister agrees, but you have to take care of yourself." The gentle-looking young man smiled and nodded seriously. A fierce-looking young man hugged the bewitching woman and said, "After going to Qin City, you have to serve Qin's emperor well. He'll definitely like you, you little slut." The bewitching woman pouted as she said, "Other people worry about their women being touched by others, but you're telling me to serve others. Do you even care about me? Why did I follow a man like you?" The fierce-looking young man laughed as he said, "In the future, when you go to Qin City, you'll serve the most powerful king in this region, and he'll treat you well. You can imagine how wonderful your future will be. I just want to obtain some benefits from you." The bewitching woman thought about the luxurious life in Qin City and lightly harumphed as she agreed. An elegant-looking young man smiled as he said to a cold-looking woman, "If I can go to Qin City this time, will you marry me and be my wife?" The cold-looking woman's face became slightly red, and she lightly nodded. The two of them had long since fallen in love, but they had never taken that step. Under such pressure, both of them had taken that step. "Be careful. I don't want to be a widow," the cold-looking woman said in a soft and caring voice. The elegant-looking young man's gaze was resolute as he said earnestly, "No matter what happens, I'll definitely go to Qin City and marry you." The cold-looking woman felt a wave of warmth in her heart and lightly leaned against the man's body. The man also lightly hugged the woman, looking like a couple in love. Whoosh! A massive gust of wind blew, causing countless trees to sway. The blue-haired big man's expression fell as he yelled. All the elderly, women, and children, hurry and leave. The Second Aeolian Empire's people have caught up. For our loved ones, we have to stall for as much time as possible." The men's expressions were all serious as they nodded. For their loved ones, they had to stop the Second Aeolian Empire. Countless people formed a defensive formation, and countless women, elderly, and children quickly left. Right now, it was their men who were stalling for time, so they could not cause trouble for them. Boom! Chapter 1544. A tall and slim woman dressed in green, with a peerlessly beautiful face, giving off a heroic and domineering aura, appeared in the sky, and gave off powerful wind god attribute energy. She was Feng Xinsha. "Attack," Feng Xinsha said calmly, not placing these people in her eyes at all. She wanted to suppress these people as quickly as possible so that she could obtain the greatest benefits. As she gave the order, the wind god army gave off an unstoppable aura as they charged towards the mermaids' formation. They easily destroyed the mermaids' defenses, and both sides started to intensely fight. However, most of the mermaids were killed. However, the mermaids still fought bravely because they were doing this for their loved ones. The blue-haired big man held his large saber and slashed out with his nation armament. A massive saber light shot out, giving off terrifying power as it slashed apart the tens of thousands of wind spirit soldiers' bodies, and blood dyed the ground red. This naturally attracted Feng Xinsha's attention, as she coldly laughed as she turned into a ray of light and shot out. She also used her nation armament and slashed out. Boom! An azure sword light brought with it an enormous gale as it slashed towards the blue-haired big man. The blue-haired big man was given a big fright and hurriedly blocked with his saber. However, the power was too great, and with his strength, he was unable to block it at all. Bang! With a loud sound, the saber in the blue-haired man's hand shattered, and the blue-haired man's body was split into two by the sword light. Blood splattered everywhere, and his organs fell to the ground. Following this, all of the mermaids were easily suppressed, and many of them died. The other group quickly ran towards Qin. The wind god army did not want to let them off, and they ferociously chased after them. Looking at the wind god army chasing after them, the golden-haired woman's expression became quite unsightly. She had never thought that they would catch up so quickly, and the mermaids in charge of stopping them would either die or be suppressed. What should we do now? The golden-haired woman felt quite worried. Seeing the wind god army come closer and closer, they would catch up to them sooner or later. If they did not die, they would be captured by the wind god army. If the Devil Horn Empire and Aeolian Empire treated them well and were not as cruel and cold, they might have submitted in the face of death. However, they did not treat those who submitted well. However, now that so many of their people had been killed by the Devil Horn Empire and the Second Aeolian Empire, they felt immense hatred towards the two empires and would not submit to them. Seeing that the Second Aeolian Empire was getting closer and closer, the mermaids fell into despair. Suddenly, an army wearing black armor and emitting a powerful dark aura appeared. Countless mermaids were overjoyed. It was Qin's soldiers. They were saved now. When Zhao Fu heard the news, he rushed over with Qin's soldiers. All of the mermaids excitedly ran towards Great Qin's direction, and the wind god army behind them also stopped. Feng Xinsha gave a trace of a smile as she looked at Zhao Fu in the air and said, "I've long since heard of your name, and now that I've met you, you're indeed extraordinary." Zhao Fu calmly replied, "You're not bad either. Your development speed is much faster than Qin's." Feng Xinsha lightly laughed as she said, "This is the advantage of an inner region empire. Are you envious? If you're willing to submit to me, I can make you my empress, and we can forget all grievances from before. How about it?" Zhao Fu said with a trace of arrogance. "So what if I'm an inner region empire? In the end, you still lost to me. If you submit to me now, I'll pamper you well and let you know what it means to be happy." Feng Xinsha's gaze became cold as she said mockingly, "If it wasn't for the Aeolian Empire being careless, and if it wasn't for the other empires participating, do you think your desolate border empire would still exist? Also, anyone who talks to me like this is either dead or has become my little male dog. I'll definitely conquer you and make you my cutest little male dog." Zhao Fu loudly laughed as he said rudely, "Right now, I also want to conquer you. I want to see you moan under me and become my little slave. You're seeking death." Feng Xinsha coldly cried out as she exploded out with a powerful aura, causing a wild green gale to blow toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu naturally did not show any weakness and exploded out with a powerful aura as he met Feng Xinsha's attack. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them started to fight in the sky, causing wild gales to blow. The terrifying auras caused people to fall into terror. After exchanging 10 or so blows, the two of them once again retreated. Feng Xinsha's expression was quite serious. She had never thought that a Heaven Realm cultivator like Zhao Fu would have such terrifying power. Even she felt that she was not a match for him, and only now did she realize that she had underestimated Qin's legatee. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a confident smile. His body now contained terrifying power, and adding on his nation armament, Zhao Fu did not fear anyone. They were quite close to Qin, and Qin's army continuously flooded over. Feng Xinsha thought about it, and decided that there was no need to fight with Qin's army over this small number of people. That would not be worth it. Legatee Qin, you need to properly develop. Otherwise, when the Aeolian Empire comes out, or the Second Aeolian Empire becomes powerful, it will be your death. I'm looking forward to seeing you become a little male dog under my feet." The wind god coldly laughed as he spoke before retreating with his army. Zhao Fu did not attack because there was no need for them to fight. Everyone in the world of beauty descended, and smiles appeared on their faces as if they had just survived a disaster. "Greetings, your majesty." The golden-haired, beautiful woman's hair and clothes were quite messy from fleeing. She came before Zhao Fu and gave a slight smile as she bowed. Zhao Fu smiled as he looked at the golden-haired, beautiful woman in front of him and nodded before looking at the group of mermaids. Most of them were elderly, children, and women. Most of them were women, and there were many young and mature women. There were roughly 200 to 300 million of them. A world had roughly 40 billion people, and only 200 to 300 million had escaped to Qin. Most of them had either died or been divided between the Devil Horn Empire and the Second Wind God Empire. However, it seemed that the most beautiful mermaids had all escaped to Qin. At that moment, a blue-haired, dignified-looking woman bowed to Zhao Fu before pleading, "Your Majesty, it's possible that my husband has been captured by them or escaped. It's possible that my husband has been captured by them. Perhaps he has already escaped. Please send someone to search for him. We want to know if he's safe." Chapter 1545. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded as he said, "Don't worry, I'll send people to deal with this matter. You've all traveled a long way and should go back to Qin City to rest." The women all nodded and agreed. They could only leave this matter to Qin City, as they did not have the ability to do so. Zhao Fu's gaze fell on the blonde woman as he said, "You can all go back with me." The golden-haired woman's face became slightly red, not understanding why Zhao Fu was so interested in her. Moreover, standing beside him and lightly smelling his scent, her body, which had not been touched by a man for many years, started to react strongly. After returning to Qin City's palace, the soldiers who had been sent out to investigate brought back a large number of corpses, which were all mermaids who had been killed by the Aeolian Empire. The Aeolian Empire had killed these people and taken their spoils of war. They were not interested in the corpses and threw them aside. The soldiers who had gone out to investigate, according to Zhao Fu's orders, brought back these corpses. The blue-haired big man, the ferocious-looking big man, and the fat man's corpses were among them. Seeing their dead relatives, countless people started to cry. The enchanting woman and the charming woman threw themselves into Zhao Fu's arms and wept as they said, "Your Majesty, our men are all dead. We'll have to rely on you in the future." As they spoke, they rubbed their mature and hot bodies against Zhao Fu's body. They pretended to cry, and their faces were red as they looked at Zhao Fu with lustful eyes. Before they had come to Qin City, they had wanted to sever ties with them. Now that they were dead, it would be easier to solve a troublesome matter. Apart from these two women, the other women were truly heartbroken and wept in pain. Zhao Fu did not disturb them, and he hugged the two women as he looked at the blonde woman, the quiet woman, the elegant woman, and the two beautiful princesses. Their faces blushed as they understood what Zhao Fu meant. Following this, they followed Zhao Fu into the room, and intense sounds continuously sounded out. After a while Zhao Fu was doing it with the blonde woman, Zhao Fu heard a voice from outside the door. "Your Majesty, are you done? We want to see you." Zhao Fu frowned and felt quite displeased. He disliked being disturbed at a time like this, but the golden-haired woman looked at him pleadingly as she said, "Your Majesty, they just lost a relative, so treat them better. I'll serve you well later." At this moment, the golden-haired beauty's lower body had turned back into a golden fishtail, and the other women had also turned back into fishtails. With their human legs, they would not be able to hold on for long, so they could only rely on their bodies to endure. Zhao Fu responded with a smile. He put on a coat and let them in. Looking at the erotic scene in the room, the women's faces became red. Zhao Fu was sitting on the bed, and the women's faces were all red as they gasped for breath. They were not wearing a single piece of clothing, and they knew what had happened. Just then, that elegant and beautiful woman had said that Great Qin's legatee was not so licentious. They had just escaped to Great Qin and had yet to recover from a shock. Moreover, so many people had died, and they were still grieving when Great Qin's legatee started to enjoy their bodies. However, the elegant woman who had spoken was the first to become a victim. Looking at the women who had come in, Zhao Fu's eyes were red and swollen as he asked, "What is it? What business do you have with us?" The blue-haired, dignified-looking woman stepped out and earnestly pleaded, "Your Majesty, please take revenge for my husband." Zhao Fu looked at her and smiled as he said, "No matter if it's the Second Aeolian Empire or the Devil Horn Empire, they're both enemies of Qin City. Don't worry, I will definitely take revenge for you." The women all looked delighted and were no longer as sorrowful as before. They were the mature mother of a cold-looking young man, the beautiful princess who had just leaned into a handsome-looking man's embrace, the big sister with a refined little brother, and the woman who had promised to marry a graceful young man. "Your Majesty, can you save our relatives who have been captured?" This was an incredibly difficult question because so many people had been captured. How could Zhao Fu save them all unless he destroyed the Second Aeolian Empire in one fell swoop? Zhao Fu replied with a smile, "I will try my best." Hearing this, the four women's hearts sank and their expressions became extremely unsightly because Zhao Fu was clearly brushing them off. However, they understood the difficulty of this matter. After thinking about it, they took the initiative to take off their clothes. Now that they had nothing to attract Zhao Fu, they could only use their bodies to exchange. The mother with a mature and weak aura pleaded, "Your Majesty, I don't expect you to save everyone, but please save the four of us. Our bodies will be yours, and we will serve you wholeheartedly from now on." Zhao Fu thought about it. Saving 4 people wasn't a problem at all. He just needed to send a few members of Eternal Night to do it. He agreed with a smile and walked toward the women. The wife of the mermaid world's #1 expert and the beautiful women who wanted Zhao Fu to take revenge for them wanted to leave so that they wouldn't disturb Zhao Fu's enjoyment. However, Zhao Fu smiled as he brought them into his embrace and started to do it with them. There were many young women who were summoned, and they could hear the intense sound from outside the room, as well as the women's lewd voices, and they knew what was going on. However, they still took the initiative to enter. Firstly, they wanted to take revenge for their dead family members. Secondly, they wanted to save their captured family members. And thirdly, they wanted to enjoy the pleasure of doing it with Zhao Fu because they had heard the woman's wild and licentious words. That day, Zhao Fu enjoyed countless mermaid women, and he preferred the young women, mature women, and mothers. Arg! Pain cries sounded out as the four young men howled in pain and continuously struggled on the ground. Their eyes were wide open, and saliva flowed out of their mouths. It was as if their minds are going to collapse. The four of them were a cold-looking young man, a refined-looking young man, an elegant-looking young man, and a handsome-looking young man. They were currently in a palace, and Feng Shunsha sat on the throne with her legs crossed as she gave a faint smile and looked at the four men in front of her. She was holding a thin silver dog leash, and next to her was a golden-haired, dignified young man who was not wearing any clothes. He was squatting there like a dog, and a certain part of his lower body had been cut off. Seeing that it was about time, Feng Shunsha gave a trace of a happy smile and stretched out her beautiful foot in the crystal shoes. The four young men hurriedly crawled over and stuck out their tongues, madly licking that beautiful foot. Chapter 1546. Within the room, Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged the golden-haired woman and the blue-haired woman. Their faces were red as they breathed raggedly in Zhao Fu's embrace. The blue-haired woman said angrily, "Your Majesty, can't my body wait a few days? My husband just died, and you're making me feel sorry for him." Thinking about that, the blue-haired woman's eyes became moist, and she looked quite pitiful. Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged her and said softly, "All right, I'll take good care of you in the future. Didn't you like me a lot just then and wanted me to continuously violate you? You've completely forgotten about those unhappy things." The blue-haired woman's face became red as she said, "It's all because your Majesty is too amazing." Following this, the blue-haired woman thought of something and took out two things from her spatial ring, saying, "These two things are for you. Your Majesty, you must take revenge for my husband." One of the things she took out was a deep blue crystal that was as long as a finger. It gave off a faint blue light and looked quite beautiful. The second was a statue made of coral. It was not very tall, only 30 centimeters tall, and it looked like a seductive woman. Zhao Fu took the two items and looked at them. The first was a mermaid stone, which was a powerful water attribute treasure that could only be produced in a world. Zhao Fu had been searching for such things because they could help him awaken his race's Emperor Star. The second statue was a statue of the ocean goddess, which was also very useful to Qin. Right now, Qin lacked godly spirits, and he was still a long way from becoming a god. Both of these things were very useful to Qin, and Zhao Fu gratefully kissed the blue-haired woman's face. The blue-haired woman felt quite shy and hugged Zhao Fu's body. Following this, Zhao Fu got up and left. He ordered people to build a palace in the fish-scale world for the mermaids to live in, and he made them concubines to provide a large amount of phoenix chi for the Emperor Phoenix statue. Zhao Fu continued to order people to build a temple for the ocean goddess as he started to fuse the mermaid stone into his body. Because Zhao Fu had a powerful divine bloodline and the 8 forbidden blood art, fusing these things into his body was quite easy. The mermaid stone gave off an intense light, and under Zhao Fu's control, it slowly fused into his body. Countless traces of watery light shined out as powerful water attribute power gathered, and a mermaid image appeared in front of Zhao Fu. After the mermaid image appeared, it flowed into Zhao Fu's body like water, causing Zhao Fu to explode with a powerful water attribute aura. The crystal completely fused with Zhao Fu's body. Feeling the powerful water power in his body, Zhao Fu chuckled and returned to the Qin Palace to deal with the political affairs. Now that the Fishman world had been conquered, the Devil Horn Empire now had 7 worlds, and the Second Aeolian Empire was about to act. The situation was quite tense. Qin Palace's main task was to clear out the glass world before continuing to attack the next world. A document was delivered to Zhao Fu from the underworld. There, Zhao Fu told Yu Qin and the other women to develop. They were the wives of the Nether Ghost City's city lords who had been hunted down before. They had been saved by Zhao Fu, and they had been taken by Zhao Fu. Before, Zhao Fu had caused massive waves in the underworld. In order to avoid the limelight, he did not develop too much and left everything to Yuqin and the other women to deal with. He also sent Li Wen and some soldiers to help. Li Wen was the son of the Li family's village chief, and he had now grown into a general. He was Qin's first ghost general, and his attributes were quite suitable for the underworld. This document was sent by Li Wen, and Zhao Fu looked at it. It was from the Nether Ghost City, which was Yu Qin's faction. They had developed very quickly and had unified dozens of surrounding factions, which threatened a large local faction. That faction gave the Nether Ghost City two choices: submit to him or die. This faction was one of the three largest factions in the region and had the strength of a Marquise kingdom. They had 2 billion or so ghost soldiers, and the other two factions also had this strength. Nether Ghost City's magic formations had developed too quickly, and they had attracted a lot of dissatisfaction and attention. The person who had threatened the Nether Ghost City was the closest faction. Zhao Fu thought about it. Now that the limelight had passed, Qin could consider developing in the underworld. After all, no one knew about that place, and it was a hidden faction. This would be very useful at critical times. Following this, Zhao Fu hurriedly went to discuss with the other factions. In the underworld, a fat and ugly man led a group of people into the Nether Ghost City in a high-profile manner. The people around him quickly made way, not daring to stop him. This man was the Gue Yi Kingdom's fourth prince, and the Gue Yi Kingdom was the faction that threatened the Nether Ghost City. They had sent the fourth prince to visit the Nether Ghost City, mainly to subdue the Nether Ghost City. Otherwise, the Gue Yi Kingdom would destroy the Nether Ghost City and prevent it from developing. By now, the Nether Ghost City had devoured countless factions, and its population had reached 1 billion people and a bit more than 100 million soldiers. This was a great threat, so the Gue Yi Kingdom had to deal with it. Of course, if they could subdue this faction, they would receive great benefits. The fourth prince relied on the Gue Yi Kingdom and did not place anyone else in his eyes. He came to the city hall and said, "Where is your faction's leader? Hurry up and come see this prince, or else the Gue Yi Kingdom will destroy you." Yuqin, who gave off a cold and aloof aura, led a few women and a group of people out of the city hall with a serious expression. With the current Nether Ghost City, it definitely was not a match for the Gue Yi Kingdom. There was a 20 times difference in military strength, and they did not have a strong foundation either. They could only hope that Zhao Fu had something to do. Seeing the beautiful women walk out, the fourth prince could not help but gulp. The beautiful women were all incredibly beautiful, and after being nourished by Zhao Fu, they had given off a great deal of charm, making them incredibly enticing to ordinary people. "Beauties, how about you serve me for a night? How about you serve me for a night? When I go back, I promise to say good things about you and have my imperial father treat you better. You can raise any conditions you want," the fourth prince said as he looked at Yuqin and the other women lecherously. Yuqin felt a trace of anger, but could not do anything because Zhao Fu had not sent any news yet. If they went against the Gue Yi Kingdom, the Gue Yi Kingdom could immediately send troops to destroy them. She could only say coldly, "Fourth prince, we have men, so please show some respect. Even though our Nether Ghost City is weak, we're not people that you can bully." Chapter 1547. The voluptuous Yin Yin felt quite furious and wanted to act and teach the fourth prince a lesson. Yuqin stretched out her hand and stopped her, telling her to calm down. Right now, it was not a good time to clash with the Gue Yi Kingdom. Yin Yin said angrily, "Then we're going to let him bully us?" Yuqin said softly, "No matter what, whether we fight with the Gue Yi Kingdom or not, we have to wait for our husband's orders. Don't worry, with his personality, he won't let us suffer a loss." Hearing this, Yin Yin lightly harumphed and was not as angry. The fourth prince could tell that Yin Yin had wanted to teach him a lesson, so he said fearlessly, "It's best that you listen to me, or else when the Gue Yi Kingdom attacks, you'll all die." A middle-aged man beside him also exploded out with heaven realm power to intimidate everyone present. That powerful aura exploded forth, causing the surrounding people to stare at the fourth prince in fear. The fourth prince raised his head, enjoying the gazes of these people. Suddenly, a light laugh rang out and a cloaked person walked out from the side. When Yuqin saw that person, she immediately threw herself into his embrace. The fourth prince looked quite displeased. He had taken a fancy to these beautiful women, and they had treated him coldly and arrogantly before. Now, they had shamelessly leapt into that person's embrace. He said coldly, "You've angered me, so it's best that you appease my anger. Otherwise, I'll immediately return to the Gui, Yi kingdom, and you'll all die miserably." Yin Yin happily hugged Zhao Fu and said coquettishly, "Good husband, this person just bullied us and wants us to serve him." Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly laughed and looked at the fourth prince. Facing Zhao Fu's terrifying gaze, the fourth prince could not help but feel a trace of coldness in his heart, and the people next to him said, "Your Highness, this person is incredibly powerful. Let's go back first." The people next to him said, "Your Highness, this person is incredibly powerful. Let's go back first." The fourth prince was also quite afraid of Zhao Fu, so he nodded and said, "Then let's leave first." Zhao Fu said with a smile, "You dare to bully my woman, and you want to leave like this?" The fourth prince knew how terrifying Zhao Fu was, so he mustered his courage and threatened, "I'm the Gui Yi Kingdom's fourth prince. If you dare to do anything to me, the Gui Yi Kingdom definitely won't let you off." Zhao Fu did not care. With a wave of his hand, an invisible force blasted out. The fourth prince's group was sent flying, and the others were sent flying. They coughed up a large mouthful of blood and fell to the ground dead. The fourth prince, Zhao Fu, had held back, and although he was sent flying, he was only slightly injured. His expression became extremely unsightly. He now understood how terrifying Zhao Fu's power was. Anyone who possessed such power must have come from the inner regions. Zhao Fu ordered the people beside him to detain the fourth prince. Yin Yin smiled as she vented her anger, saying, "Husband, it's not a big deal. Let's go back to our room. I'll serve you well." Yuqin leaned against Zhao Fu's embrace. Now that Zhao Fu had come to the underworld, she did not have to worry about anything else. "You haven't been to the underworld for so long, so you have to treat us well today." Zhao Fu smiled and hugged them into the room. The 5 beautiful women were like sluts under Zhao Fu, moaning and moaning, constantly demanding from Zhao Fu. Afterwards, Zhao Fu hugged Yuqin and asked, "What's the situation with the Nether Ghost City and the other 3 factions?" Yuqin lay in Zhao Fu's embrace and explained the information about the 3 factions to Zhao Fu in detail. She sensed Zhao Fu's intentions and said in shock, "Husband, what is it? Don't tell me you want to destroy the 3 great forces together?" Yuqin actually still knew Zhao Fu's true identity, but she knew that Zhao Fu was not someone from the underworld and that his faction might be very powerful. Zhao Fu smiled and admitted, I want to destroy the 3 factions together and unify this region. I want to destroy the 3 factions and unify this area. This area should be equivalent to a world. I'll let you be the queen." Yuqin could not help but kiss Zhao Fu in delight. Back when she was the city lord's wife, she did not even dare to think about being a queen. Moreover, as the queen of a world, if it wasn't for Zhao Fu, she would not have such accomplishments. Lu Ye was infatuated with Zhao Fu as she said, "Darling, I'm not interested in being a queen. Actually, I have no interest in the queen. It would be great if I could receive your favor every day." Yin Yin happily smiled as she said, "I want to be a queen, but I also want to receive husband's love. Also, husband, think about it in the future. Wouldn't it be a great achievement for the 5 of us to serve you as queens and pan under you?" Zhao Fu smiled and lightly nodded before saying, "Let's begin then. I brought many people with me." The women all smiled as they got up and put on their clothes. The Gui Yi Kingdom also received news that their 4th prince had been captured and that a group of people protecting him had been killed. The Gui Yi Kingdom was furious and sent out 1.5 billion Go soldiers, led by the Gui Yi Kingdom's General Gui Ge, to attack the Nether Ghost City. The Nether Ghost City only had 100 million soldiers, and the Gue Yi Kingdom had sent out 5 billion soldiers, which was 15 times more than the Nether Ghost City. They also had General Gue as their commander, so destroying the Nether Ghost City would not be an issue. Zhao Fu and the others had long since heard about this. The Gue Yi Kingdom had no way of knowing that they had mobilized 10 billion soldiers to ambush the Nether Ghost City. They were not facing just 100 million soldiers, but 10 billion soldiers. Gue led the army forwards, giving off killing intent. After arriving at a relatively flat area, he felt his hair stand on end as he sensed great danger. He looked around and found that everything was deathly silent. At that moment, Gue understood that there was an ambush here and loudly said, "Everyone, be on guard." However, by that moment, they had already entered an opening that Qin's army had set up. Seeing that they had been discovered, Zhao Fu did not continue to hide and led his army out. Soldiers dressed in black armor with cold expressions and giving off a dark aura appeared, and it was impossible to see how many of them there were. They gave off an aura of killing and conquering that had experienced countless battles, and they flooded towards the Gue Yi Kingdom soldiers, causing them to fall into terror. "What's going on?" All of the Gue Yi Kingdom soldiers gathered together and looked at the Qin soldiers surrounding them in shock, unable to understand what was going on. Weren't they going to attack the Nether Ghost City? Why had they suddenly been surrounded by such an elite army? Moreover, they had many times more soldiers than them. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.